Hello, my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds, and welcome to my book garden. Actually, kind of welcome to my plushy garden. How is everyone doing today? I'm super excited that we are at our fourth, I think it's the fourth read. Yes, it's the fourth read of the second volume of our disabled Tyrant's beloved pet fish, and I am super excited about that. Hi, Momar's Rover. How are you doing today? I know I had kind of a long day, something that I thought would be done, like I'd be back home by 4. I was home by 6. So it took a bit longer. Actually, no, I was home pretty much by like 6:30. It was a long day. Ooh, a crochet project. That's amazing. I do my best, but I still just mainly stick to scarves because it's less counting. You just keep going. So, what are you crocheting? I'm curious. What are you crocheting? What color is it? Do you have experience crocheting? I'm just curious. But yeah, it was kind of tiring. Oh, nice! You're making a blanket and you're making it green. Now, are you making it for yourself or is this going to be a gift? Both options are amazing. I'm just being curious. But while you're answering, legalities. I am not sponsored. I don't make anything from this. I don't own anything from this other than this physical copy and my time, and not even that sometimes, like today. You've been crocheting since you were 11, and this one's for you, and you're making a white one for your mom. That's so cool. I'm sure your mom's gonna love it, and I think you're gonna love it too. Once you're not in the throw of it, like in the middle of it, just because I know when I'm making the scarf, sometimes I'm not super happy to be making a scarf. But I hope you have a really good time making it and it turns out amazing, because I'm sure it will. I feel like I'm forgetting things. Oh, this is a super chill stream. I will be talking to the chat. I will be talking to the book. I will be making side comments, and we can get kind of goofy. We will do asides just like this. And hello, Annika. Yes, it's great when you're done and infuriating throughout. The last scarf I was making, I was so careful with it because I have the habit of adding and subtracting stitches unintentionally, and there's this one monstrosity that I call the scarf blanket shawl that I made my mom for Mother's Day. It was one of the first knitting projects I made, and this thing somehow gained about 15 stitches to it, and it was already pretty wide. So it's horrific. But she still uses it. She kind of like wraps it like she's a babushka around her head and just like cuddles up with it like a half blanket. But I'm like, oh, it's definitely a house one, not a let's go out and do things. She still uses it, so I guess it is still super special for her. It's just very homey looking. Maybe I'll try and make her one for Christmas this year. We'll see. No, but that'll be super cool. Has anything new happened, Annika? Anything good? Did you have a good day? Hopefully yes. It was nicer weather today, which I was thankful for. Just a lot of waiting and a lot of driving for me today. But not bad. I got some time to read a book. So not all bad. Oh no. Well, I mean, that's like a plus minus. Like, oh no, technology died, and then you have to get it all set up and reconfigured so it's to your own personal specifications, but kind of nice to have the day off, I imagine. But yeah, what am I forgetting? I think we covered everything. I'm sure, like, I know it won't be exactly the same, and you'll find things that are just like, oh, I have to put in this password or reset this thing, but I'm sure, or I hope, that it'll all get reconfigured to your preferences quickly. But anyway, I don't really have anything else to add. Like, it's been kind of just working days, getting back into the rhythm of things for me. So, of course. I don't really have anything else to add. I mean, I redid my pin bag, one of them. I have like 3 Ida bags, but this is my current setup. Because I was like, well, I'll be styling, but I've got some fun ones. So I've got Thousand Autumns. I've got some allusions to Heaven Officials. I have this kind of looks like Scum Villain, but this is actually Word of Honor. Then Little Mushroom, of course. And then these ones are a fun set by Suchi Haku, I think, on Instagram. They're brand new. And they're actually like all the people eating. So our 2 doomed Danmei protagonists eating. This one slipped down, but it's Scum Villain with Bingha doing his good food. Here, I can scooch it up a little. But yeah, they're super cool. But I took that and was chilling with that. So little things, like, I had most of those. So I just reorganized, but that was my cool, fun thing yesterday that I did. So that'll be my casual, I have to go run errands bag. Because I'm a nerd! But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. It is about 8 minutes right now. We have 3 yeets on the board. I really need to have just a stack of pens in here. You know what? I can remember 8 minutes. All right, so last time, we had our fishy boy plotting to try to move forward in his next quest by sharing wine and a meal of smashed cucumbers with the Tyrant. And it didn't quite work. He watered down the wine, and he was waiting nervously for the system's notifications. But time passed, and even when Prince Jing was almost finished with the cup of wine, the mission had still not been updated. Liu's clever plan seemed to have somehow failed. Why didn't it work? He pouted in frustration. If this didn't work, then how was he going to complete the mission? He was dejected for a bit, but soon realized that Prince Jing, who was sitting across from him and drinking wine, had been silent for a while. When he looked up, Prince Jing had his hand on his forehead and his eyes closed. What? No way. Was the Tyrant drunk on just the diluted wine? Wasn't this the man who drank several cups of green plum wine in a row? But he'd heard that alcohol tolerance was unreliable and possibly dependent on mood and the body. Perhaps Prince Jing actually couldn't hold his liquor that well. If he fell asleep while drunk like this, he would catch a cold. Liu was quite responsible when it came to taking care of Prince Jing. He took the initiative to put Prince Jing's arm on his shoulder and lift him upward. He meant to help him to the bed, but Prince Jing was much taller than him, and it was difficult to support him with just his shoulder. Liu finally put him down and put a quilt over him, getting ready to leave when suddenly his sleeve was pulled and held him back. Maybe his sleeve had been accidentally caught under Prince Jing when he put him down, or maybe he tripped a little? Either way, he was yanked back somehow. Liu fell onto Prince Jing. He blinked, somewhat confused at what was happening. Then he saw the person underneath him open his eyes. So that's where we ended last time. And I'm going to take a sip, and then we will go ahead and get started. All right. Chapter 51, A Fishy Falling Out. Liu's eyes met the black ones below his, and he immediately tried to get back up. "I'm sorry, Your Highness. I accidentally fell," he quickly explained in a hushed voice. Well, that wasn't very hushed, but that's okay. He reacted pretty quickly, and he probably didn't fall onto Prince Jing very hard. Prince Jing is taking the essence thing into his own hands. He absolutely is. Mars Rover. He's like, my fish is too slow, so I gotta do it. Maybe it'll work. But Prince Jing wasn't a petty person, and in either fish form or human form, Liu had bothered and teased him before. Liu was quite sure that Prince Jing wouldn't be angry at him. But Prince Jing didn't do anything to suggest forgiveness either. He just kept staring at him with his dark eyes. Being stared at for so long, Liu's fish intuition told him something was wrong. He was about to get up in a panic, but the person under him was faster than he was. Prince Jing folded him into his arms. Liu's face was thus pressed against Prince Jing's chest. Prince Jing wasn't satisfied with just this. He held Liu's waist with his other hand as if afraid he would run away. What was he doing? The warmth of the hand on his waist made Liu a little uncomfortable, and Prince Jing was still staring at him, even though they were so close. It was giving him goosebumps. Although he couldn't read Prince Jing's thoughts with just a glance, like Wang Shi could, between his understanding of the novel and the interactions with Prince Jing, as both a fish and a human, Liu could usually figure out a thing or two. But not in absurd moments like this. With some difficulty, Liu asked, "Your Highness, what are you doing?" His Highness wanted to do you, of course. Well, okay then. Just putting it right out there. Prince Jing hugged Liu and tucked a loose strand of the fish's hair, his fish's hair, behind his ear as though he thought about how to make the person in his arms understand. Just what he meant. It was inconvenient that he couldn't speak, but if he let him go during such a good opportunity to look for a brush and paper, it would kill the mood, and the carp spirit might not let him hold him again. Prince Jing had noticed that the fish hadn't come to absorb essence in a long time. He was concerned that the fish had gotten enough from him and intended to switch to someone else. For example, certain little chub whom the spirit couldn't forget. He's still stuck up on little chubs. Prince Jing had ordered Wang Shi to look into it, but still hadn't figured out who it was. Everyone in the manor liked the carp spirit. Prince Jing was pleased, but he also felt like other people were coveting his treasure. Such conflicting emotions left him feeling dissatisfied. It wasn't enough that the carp spirit was part of his household. He had to personally claim the carp. Ooh. I like that we're getting a little more Prince Jing point of view. I think his point of view is hilarious as well. Like, Liu's side is funny in the conventional sense, but like Prince Jing's is just so funny. I love this book. His internal dialogue is hilarious. I agree. This fish had come for him, and he was his, not to be coveted by others. Prince Jing is so funny when he's jealous. He really is, Truffle. And hello! Welcome to the stream. How you doing? He's so serious and it contrasts with Liu very well. Yes. The carp spirit apparently still had no intention of revealing his identity as a Yao to Prince Jing. Prince Jing had asked Liao Kong several questions when he had the chance. Liao Kong solemnly replied that the Yao probably came to the mortal world to undergo a tribulation. It was best to not mess up his plans, lest the Yao fail his tribulation and get hurt instead. Oh, nice! Oh, very nice. I hope you have a great time at the game. And I'm kind of curious what you scored at the garage sale, because I found some pretty cool things at garage sales. Like, I found this kind of like almost picture frame looking candelabra thing that was like 4 by 4 by 4. The bird sort. Oh, that's even cooler. Where are you going to see eagles, if you don't mind sharing? Like a zoo, or like legit going to see eagles? Ooh, very nice steals. I always end up missing, like, we have this 1 weekend, 1 to 2 weekends a year. That's so cool, Truffle. Where it's like the whole town, like the whole town / city has garage sales everywhere. So it's like a garage sale of Palooza. I always am doing something that weekend, maybe a con or something, and I'm just like, every time. Just probably better for my wallet and slowly shrinking space. But that's really cool. I hope you have fun, and I hope you get to see them, which I'm sure you will. Okay, anyway, back. Prince Jing understood, and he couldn't expose his true feelings to Xiao Yu in case it affected him. When Prince Jing thought about it carefully, though, he felt it didn't really matter if he couldn't expose Xiao Yu's true identity. If Xiao Yu didn't want him to know, he would just pretend he didn't know. But that wouldn't stop him from claiming the human Xiao Yu as his own. Quite apart from his identity as a Yao, Xiao Yu was a distinguished guest in his residence. There was nothing wrong with him liking Xiao Yu. Before the scholars in the books found out, weren't they also living a good, normal life with their Yao? Oh, I love him. In his lifetime, Prince Jing had never cared about someone so much. Aw. He'd finally found the one. Since he was a child, he was taught that he should take in whoever he liked. But if the carp spirit refused to come suck his essence, Prince Jing felt like he was in danger. He'd tried his best to study the books on cultivation, but he still didn't understand a lot of it. He didn't know why Xiao Yu wouldn't come suck him. Human life was limited, and he didn't know how much longer it would take him. He might as well make the first move himself. Oh boy. Prince Jing had already come to this decision when he heard that his fish was going to invite him to drink. Otherwise, he wouldn't have accepted the invitation so readily. He even used a little trick to pretend to be drunk, letting the fish approach him unguarded. Your Highness, can you let go of me? Liu asked weakly. Whether he was lying on Prince Jing or being held by Prince Jing, both positions made Liu feel guilty. Prince Jing was drunk, but Liu wasn't. It felt like he was taking advantage of him. How could an innocent boy do such a thing? He wanted to get off Prince Jing immediately. There wasn't much time before his transformation ended, besides. The hand that was tucking Liu's hair behind the ears stilled for a moment. Prince Jing had no intention of letting go. Instead, he gently held Liu's jaw, running a thumb over the young man's plump lips. He wasn't going to go easy on this fish. Liu was feeling very awkward about the drunk Prince Jing's teasing. As a fish, he'd already bitten Prince Jing several times, so now that he was being hugged so tightly he couldn't move, he decided to open his mouth and bite Prince Jing's finger, hoping to give the drunk man a little shock of pain to sober him up. There's some Lan Wangji thoughts right there. Maybe that's why I like them so much. I absolutely adore Lan Wangji. I just love this. He's a really bad actor. He really is. He's a very straightforward person, so when he's trying to pretend, it comes off very silly. He decided, it's so funny to read. It really is. But everything backfired. When he bit down, the look in Prince Jing's eyes changed. He flipped open the quilt without hesitation and wrapped Xiao Yu in it to prevent him from escaping. Liu's eyes widened as he was suddenly engulfed by a blanket and darkness. Fuck, what was he trying to do? Before he could protest, a warm, soft touch came over his lips, the motion tentative at first. He heard the other person's content sigh, and that softness touched him again, firmly caressing his lips. Trapped in the dark blankets, Liu couldn't see or hear anything. His head was about to explode. He was young, but he wasn't completely oblivious to basic human affairs. This touch on his lips was obviously a kiss. Liu is just naive enough that he is tricked anyway, though. True enough. It was evident who it was. Bastard! How could he treat him like this? He's obviously mistaken him for a lover. Oh, Liu. Liu was fuming, feeling ashamed and angry, but he was wrapped in the quilt, and his opponent was much stronger, so he couldn't break free. The more he struggled, the more excited the other party became. Liu could barely breathe, and his body felt like it'd been electrocuted, loose and soft. Mistaken. He whimpered a few times and pummeled the other person in embarrassed fury, but it only made the kisses more urgent. Liu felt like he would die of suffocation if this went on, so when the other person tried to pry open his teeth, Liu hesitated and pretended to give up his resistance. As Prince Jing invaded and gently prodded him, Liu ruthlessly bit his tongue. He bit too quickly and too hard and immediately tasted blood. Still afraid Prince Jing wouldn't let him go, he somehow freed a leg and kicked upward without thinking. Sorry, hang on. I'm going to turn off the ringer. I usually remember, but I guess I forgot tonight. Sorry. In pain, Prince Jing unhanded Liu, who pushed the quilt away and jumped off the bed. His white clothes had gotten messed up while he was thrashing around under the blanket. Liu was both aggrieved and afraid and angrily yelled, "You have the wrong person! I'm not some other lover!" He lifted his head and saw Prince Jing frowning and covering his injured mouth. Liu understood immediately. He didn't look like a drunkard at all. So you weren't drunk! Liu suddenly realized the truth. Prince Jing wasn't actually drunk, so he'd done all that to Liu on purpose. He wanted to bully and molest him. What a huge asshole! Was this the true face of the Tyrant Master who had always been kind to him? He was stunned, feeling angry, embarrassed, and disappointed. He couldn't tell which one he felt the most, but his head was buzzing. And just then, the system started the countdown to his transformation. He was going to turn back into a fish! Liu had never been so panicked before. He definitely couldn't change back in front of Prince Jing. Out of desperation, he followed his instincts and ran away. Prince Jing hadn't expected him to react like this. After a moment of stunned silence, he started to chase after him. But his tongue hurt, and when he took his hand away, it was bloody. The carp spirit had bit him so hard. Prince Jing didn't know how he defended him. In his own mind, he'd never thought the carp spirit would resist. He hadn't assumed the carp spirit that always tried to please him would dislike being treated this way. Liu ran outside in a flash, still shaking uncontrollably with emotion. His transformation time was up, and he turned back into a fish and fell to the ground. Not long after, Prince Jing came running after him and saw a flopping fish on the ground. Coming to a halt, Prince Jing carefully picked up the fish. Liu saw him and was reminded of how he was bullied just now and suddenly became sad. What kind of asshole master was this? How could he bully even a fish? Oh. Liu flapped vigorously in Prince Jing's hand, wanting to be left alone. Prince Jing could tell his fish was unhappy, but he wouldn't let him go. He held the restless, squirming fish and returned to his room, placing him gently back in his tank. Maybe it would be better to put him in the pond, but Prince Jing could tell that his fish was angry right now, and he was afraid that the fish would hide down there and never return. So, stubbornly, he put the fish back into the crystal fish tank. Even if Xiao Yu was unhappy, he couldn't let him out of his sight. Having escaped from his asshole master, the little carp swam to the silver stone bed and lay under the leaf blanket edged with gold, refusing to come out. After laying there for a bit, defeated, he remembered that both the quilt and bed were gifts from Prince Jing. The bullied, indignant fish flicked the blanket away immediately and plunged headfirst into the ornamental mountain cave instead. He knew he shouldn't be using this fish form to express his anger at Prince Jing. Prince Jing didn't see him transform and didn't know his true identity. As far as he was aware, he had bullied Liu the person, and it would be strange for his fish that he had raised to suddenly be upset. But Liu's mind was already in turmoil. He was still the one who was taken advantage of and molested, so wasn't it normal for him to be upset? Apart from his shock, shame, and fury, he couldn't figure out why Prince Jing had bullied him. He hadn't spent that much time with him in his human form. Did he seem like such an easy person to Prince Jing? What a douchebag to treat him like that! Liu was furious whenever he thought of it, so he swam out of the cave, took the blanket, and tried to rip it apart, as if it were Prince Jing. But it was soon clear that the blanket was too strong. He swam headfirst in the pile of colorful gems and tossed the round stones as far as he could. But that still didn't help him calm down at all. In the end, he slammed his head against the crystal fish tank, but he didn't dare do it too hard, in case the fish tank broke. Oh, right. He was pretty sure he'd kicked Prince Jing earlier. He didn't damage him permanently, did he? Of course not. He kicked randomly and probably not very accurately. He couldn't do anything. Why was he starting to worry about that bastard? Anger! It literally says anger. Like... Anger! Liu was thumping the crystal fish tank again when a figure suddenly appeared before him. The fact that Liu can't tell that Prince Jing is desperately in love with him despite all the special treatment is hilarious. Right? He is funny. He looked up and saw Prince Jing standing in front of the fish tank, holding a jade box filled with fish food and peach blossom pastries. Really? Asshole! I'm ignoring you! Liu whisked his tail. I'm decided. I'm going on a hunger strike. He immediately swam back into the cave, even hiding the tip of his tail. Prince Jing watched the fish, bemused. He sprinkled a handful of fish food into the tank, but the fish, that was normally greedy for food, didn't come out. Prince Jing shook his head helplessly and left the food there. He hid far away and tried to peek at his fish, but there was no movement from the tank. Since his fish had thrown tantrums before, but always recovered eventually, Prince Jing thought it would be the same this time. But after a few days, the fish continued hiding in the cave, refusing to come out, much less transform. Even if Prince Jing wanted to explain, he wasn't given a chance to. Prince Jing suddenly realized that the situation wasn't looking good. The fish seemed to be determined to ignore him forever. Good thing I didn't kick him there. Good thing I didn't kick him there. Sob, 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 I hate you the most. Oh, so he's maybe slightly embarrassed now that he kicked him almost kicked him in the junk. All right. Chapter 52. Fish on Strike. Prince Jing was thoroughly troubled by the fact that Liu wouldn't eat, so he asked Wang Shi to feed him. In the past, when they fought, Prince Jing would have Wang Shi feed the little carp, but now Xiao Yu wouldn't even humor Wang Gongong. Asshole, you're in cahoots with each other. I'm not stupid. Liu stubbornly starved for 2 days. He felt like he was getting skinnier, and like if he wasn't paying attention, he would float right up to the surface. Prince Jing wasn't very good at coaxing an angry fish, and he didn't really know why Xiao Yu was upset in the first place, so he discussed strategy with Wang Shi. Since he hadn't told Wang Shi about Xiao Yu's true identity, he could only explain both situations separately, so Wang Gongong thought His Highness had run into 2 different difficult situations at the same time. Li Gongzi and His Highness had quarreled, so Li Gongzi disappeared while Master Fish wouldn't eat. Yeah, his cursing's pretty funny. In the past, the fish had been His Highness's favorite, but since Li Gongzi's arrival, Wang Shi had seen firsthand how much His Highness doted on Li Gongzi. He felt like he had to weigh both situations carefully. He first asked what happened before Li Gongzi's quarrel, and Prince Jing had sent everyone away that day, so no one knew what had happened, and Wang Shi had no choice but to ask Prince Jing. Prince Jing hinted with his eyes and wrote a few words, leaving Wang Shi so shocked that he couldn't speak. Had Li Gongzi refused to sleep with His Highness? If it were anyone else, Wang Shi would have dealt with it according to the rules of the manor. But this was Li Gongzi, and His Highness didn't seem to have any intention of blaming him either. Wang Shi decided to put the rules aside and said, Your Highness, the most important thing is to find him first. Prince Jing felt a little dejected upon hearing that. Xiao Yu refused to transform because he didn't want to see him. How was he going to find Xiao Yu? Wang Shi knew that Li Gongzi was often evasive. Seeing Prince Jing's expression, he guessed that Li Gongzi was hard to find. Wang Shi said, Then why did he leave in such a hurry? Do you know the reason, Your Highness? Prince Jing shook his head. Wang Shi was just a servant. Though he'd seen and gone through a lot, he wasn't very experienced with relationships. You have to realize he's a eunuch. He is missing an important part of something. So he is not married and has not been there or done that. So relationship advice is not necessarily something that he's able to give from personal experience. Just saying. Yep, it is. Wang Shi's biggest relationship is with Prince Jing. That's more parental than anything. Yes. Though he had seen and gone through a lot, he wasn't very experienced with relationships. He couldn't think of anything with just the small portions of information Prince Jing had given him. But Wang Shi still wanted to help his master, so he tactfully suggested, "Why don't you ask Yi Shizi about Li Gonzi?" Prince Jing paused. That was an idea. Li Xinghuan was thus quickly invited to the residence. "Tianqi, you finally have something to ask of me?" Yi Xinghuan was so happy that Prince Jing would ask for his advice that he grinned so hard it hurt. Prince Jing looked sullen, and Wang Gonggong told Yi Shizi everything he knew. He was afraid that Li Gonzi would be embarrassed, so he didn't mention him by name. At Prince Jing's signal, he changed it to "the person His Highness likes." Yi Xinghuan was confused. The one time he invites his cousin over, it's for boy advice, right? He scratched his chin and said, "It's rare for you to ask me for anything. I want to help, but you know me." Yi Xinghuan smiled embarrassed. "I'm about to marry the princess, and I don't know what to do myself. I'm afraid I can't help you. I mean, his is also an arranged marriage, so, there's literally not many people he can ask about. What do I do about this relationship that isn't preordained or, superficial, aka a business transaction?" Prince Jing gave his unhelpful cousin an unimpressed look. "But my mother wants me to treat the princess well. If I have anyone else, I'm to send them away. After I'm married, I should focus my affection only on the princess. If I like her, then I have to let her know as soon as possible." Yep, that's right. It doesn't mean Yi Shizi doesn't like her, but it's still a different situation. Exactly. Being a married couple, arguments shouldn't last overnight. The Duke and Duchess of Chang'an had been married for decades, and they had a strong relationship. The Duchess of Chang'an had passed on a lot of her own experience to her son, and Yi Xinghuan kept these pearls of wisdom like treasures. I mean, that's good advice for any relationship. Not even romantic necessarily. Though our statuses are different, the principle remains the same. If you really care about them, you should make your feelings known. Asking them to sleep with you immediately is too impatient, don't you think? Yes. Yes, I do. Prince Jing listened intently. Was he too impatient? A little bit, but nobody had taught him that before. So that must be why Xiao Yu was angry, right? He needed to make it clear to Xiao Yu what his feelings for him were. But if Xiao Yu wasn't willing to transform and see him, then how was he going to save the situation? Prince Jing sank deep into thought. Yi Xinghuan kept rambling on, excitedly prattling about the details of the wedding preparations in the Chang'an manor, so Prince Jing stopped listening. He had to deal with both things at once. He had to explain things to his fish turned human. He had to find a way to make the hunger-striking fish eat. Wang Shi had no way of knowing Li Gonzi's heart, but he was still useful when it came to master fish. If the fish refused to eat, he couldn't pry open its mouth and force feed it, so they could only keep trying. Wang Shi suggested that Prince Jing gather all the fish's favorite foods in front of the ornamental mountain caves the fish might eat on its own after some time. But if the food was left in the water for a long time, the water would get dirty. Wang Shi and a servant experienced in raising fish discussed what to do and decided on cleaning out the food once a day and putting in fresh food the next day. That's a pretty smart solution. It's a very clean fish tank at that point. Prince Jing out here trying to get a passing grade in Dating 101. Yep. I was about to make a joke and my brain just totally went blank. So I was like, yep, we're just, yeah. Prince Jing thought it made a lot of sense. To make Xiao Yu happy, he put out all kinds of delicious food. The fish really wanted to eat it, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. Every time the servants cleaned out the food, the fish was the one who struggled the most and felt the most pain. So much delicious food wasted. Liu held on for 2 days. His entire body visibly shriveled, and even his scales lost their luster. Seeing Prince Jing summon many people to take care of him, anxious to please him, Liu couldn't stand it. Prince Jing didn't know that Liu was his pet fish. He might think that his pet fish was sick and refused to eat, but he couldn't help but be upset when he thought about what Prince Jing did to him. He really is so food-focused. In that sense, part of him should have been born a dog. Not eating made him feel a little better out of spite, but if he refused to eat for a long time, he would die of starvation. No, wait, Liu thought in abrupt, hungry frustration. It wasn't his fault, so why should he starve himself? Would Prince Jing realize why he was upset because he refused to eat? Probably not. Basically a puppy. Yeah, we could call him a guppy because he's a goldfish puppy, kind of. He's a koi puppy, but cuppy sounds weird. Liu suddenly realized that he couldn't torture himself just because he was angry. He was already skin and bones, and the food was right next to him. The last bit of his pride died out as he weakly swam towards the food when Prince Jing wasn't around, wanting to quickly eat a little. Just a little. Liu finally approached the mouth of the cave. The scent of the food that he hadn't tasted in a long time, it's been 2 days, my dude, made him so emotional that he wanted to cry, but before he could take a bite, a servant came by. Seeing that the fish hadn't touched the food, the servant sighed and took away the food for the day. What? Liu was so hungry that he was dizzy and his eyesight was blurry. No! Did he have to wait until tomorrow? Prince Jing, who had been secretly watching the fish, came over and saw the fish had finally showed his face. Prince Jing gave it some thought and reached for a handful of fish food. When Liu saw the huge bastard's face, he instinctively wanted to turn around, but he was about to die of starvation. The fish food in Prince Jing's hand was tormenting him. He was so hungry that he had no more energy to swim away. He just gave up and watched as Prince Jing gently placed the fish food in front of him. Fine. No, fish could stretch and bend. He shouldn't torture himself. He should have fattened himself up and tormented his asshole master instead. And just like that, the fish changed his mind and finally started eating. Prince Jing smiled, extremely relieved. He touched the fish's back with his fingers, but Liu was still on guard. He chewed on his food and moved his back away. Don't think you can bribe me with just some fish food. You can make me eat, but you can't pet me. Prince Jing watched the fish gobble the food up, and the smile on his lips dulled a bit. Liu was so hungry that he felt full after just eating a little bit. Prince Jing remembered what Wang Shi had said, that it was too bad for fish to be too full. As soon as Liu stopped swallowing, Prince Jing started to push him to swim. After Liu's hunger was gone, a lot of his anger disappeared too. He let Prince Jing push him, thinking it was easier than swimming around himself. When his stomach became more comfortable, he flicked his tail proudly and swam into the cave. He didn't want to sleep on the bed that huge bastard got for him yet. Full and not really angry anymore, Liu entered the Moe pet system. When he was at his most panicked, he heard the completed mission notification, so he was confused and wanted to confirm things with the system. He's not hangry anymore, right? Why was his carefully planned drinking scheme unable to progress the mission, and why was the mission completed when his bastard master bullied him instead? Did he misunderstand something? Was such shameless bullying what the system meant by indulge? Yes. Yes, it was. Give me a reasonable explanation, he demanded angrily. If you can't give me one, then I won't complete missions anymore. When the fish scamming system kept scamming him, he endured it silently. But there was a limit to everything. The system better not think that it could keep scamming him just because he was easygoing and honest. Because the user has completed the main mission, Tyrant's precious pet fish, the path of the following tasks will be determined based off of that. The user is required to develop a deeper relationship with the Tyrant. Simply drinking with him is no longer enough to complete that step. Please think about it, user. The system was talkative for once. You're already his priceless pet fish, so your relationship can only get better from here on out. Yeah, right, Liu huffed coldly. Does a better relationship mean stuffing my human form under a quilt and kissing me by force? What kind of logic is that? But it's a better relationship than priceless, isn't it? The system revealed its talent for debate, rendering Liu speechless. Easygoing, Liu, you threw a tantrum for 3 days. Yeah. He still felt like something was wrong. Hit with a sudden idea, he went through all the missions he'd done, only to find a huge problem. The fish scamming system's quest all had clickbait titles. He'd gotten used to it, but if he put them all together, it didn't seem like he was a pet to be raised at all. It was more like he was in a dating sim. Stop making excuses. It was the system's plan all along. Liu's anger now was no less than when he was taken advantage of before. What pet wanted to have a deeper understanding, intimate contact, and indulgence with his master? Tyrant's priceless pet fish is a series of initial missions that only require the user to achieve the necessary results, said the system. Liu finally realizing the system has been sus from the start. He's starting to pick up on it. Only took 1.5 books. The user can choose how to complete the quest, and all missions were voluntarily completed by the user. The system seemed to be beating around the bush. Thinking about it, Liu realized that the system meant that the Tyrant Master doing this and that to him was because he was asking for it. It'd be really funny if the system was actually a daughter-in-law training system. Oh yeah, because were you the one who had the theory that it's actually the Tyrant's mother that's the system? I know someone raised that theory, and I really like it. And if anyone ever finds something like that or writes one, please post the story title and author in the chat, because that sounds fantastic. And it would be really funny if it was. No. Okay, so it was you. Nice. No, not that you were asking for it, but the Tyrant's actions towards user now were caused by the user's choices in the previous missions, the system corrected. Great. Why didn't the system warn him that completing the quest would have an effect on Prince Jing? Of course they would. You be nice to a person and it affects them. Of course it does. The system responded, because the missions of the Moe Pet system may be completed with the user's own sincerity. If you are told beforehand, then your choices would no longer be your own. You make it sound nice, but it was just a trap from the beginning, Liu complained. This made him even angrier than when Prince Jing trapped him under the blanket. His face dark, Liu asked, Oh my goodness, I'm yawning a lot. Is there any way to make Prince Jing stop taking advantage of me? Prince Jing is the male protagonist. The system is unable to control his actions, but the user has the option to restart once. Once reset, all missions need to be completed again. Yeah, I think he did forget his whole mission is to change Prince Jing. I agree. He was surprised. I can reset? Naturally, Liu wondered what kind of results resetting would have. It wouldn't clear the tyrant's memories, satisfaction in it to zero, would it? If that was the case, then there wouldn't be any more troubles for him. But would that be fair to Prince Jing? Due to Liu's transmigration, Prince Jing was no longer a piece of text, but a living person just like him. It seemed quite immoral to destroy other people's memories whenever he wanted just because he was unhappy. User, you misunderstood, the system hurriedly explained. The Moe Pet system can only clear the user's memory of being a pet fish to achieve the effect of a fresh start, but it cannot change Prince Jing. So it's clearing my own memory? It sounded quite impressive, but wouldn't that just make him a pushover? If his memory was erased, wouldn't he still fall into the same traps? Traps? I think it's a little harsh. Besides, he didn't think he'd done anything wrong on his previous missions. Was he supposed to let the Duke of Chang'an and Yi Qinghuan be killed or leave the chubby boy to drown? He was the same person, even if he reset, so he'd make the same decisions. Plus, if he reset but Prince Jing didn't, wouldn't it be even worse? It would be worse if I didn't. If there's no need to reset... Oh, okay. If there's no need to reset, then please accept the reward, user. The system notified him that the Indulge mission had been completed. Now that Liu knew some of the truth, his heart was in turmoil, and he had no energy to accept it. But then he remembered that he'd specifically asked for a fish plush as a reward for the mission, which was actually useful for him. Liu was annoyed and said, Give me the fish plush and store the rest for now. Does the next mission have a timer? It does not, Liu bitterly thought. Then I'm not completing any missions now. I'll wait until I feel like it. With that, he took the fish plush and exited the system, returning to his crystal fish tank. He didn't know how he was supposed to face his fish life in the future. He always thought he was smart, but now, having been scammed by the system and bullied by Prince Jing, he felt defeated. Oh my goodness. I do apologize for all the yawning. The fish plush lay by his side. Because he originally wanted to use it as a cover when he transformed, he asked the system for another fish plush. As expected, this fish plush was updated to his most recent look. A silver fish with gold scales scattered across its body. But he didn't want to change into a human and interact with Prince Jing anymore. Make him into fish bones and fish ash, if you must. Liu angrily fell asleep. When he was fast asleep, someone suddenly spoke loudly in his ear. Was it Wang Shi? Liu wanted to hide as soon as he was fully awake, but he could hear the noise more clearly now. It wasn't Wang Shi. Liu soon realized there was two voices that he'd never heard before. one voice mysteriously said to the other. Does His Highness have to make such a grand gesture? The other voice said, Yes. His Highness is very fond of Li Gonzi, but I heard he went missing. His Highness feels that he will come back and take a look, so this is the only method he can use to pass a message to him. Li Gonzi, a secret eavesdropping fish, was puzzled. What was the huge bastard up to now? The first voice continued. Write it on the wall. If Li Gonzi is still in the manor, he'll definitely see it. The two voices slowly faded. Liu angrily thought, what act were they performing right in front of me? Prince Jing most likely ordered these people to perform this little play to spread the news around the manor. But it did pique his curiosity. Could a person who couldn't speak really leave a message? What message was it, and why on the wall? Liu took advantage of the situation and hopped over to the windowsill to get a glimpse outside. Everywhere he looked, he saw the white walls of Prince Jing's manor covered with extra-large, flamboyant characters. There are no other lovers. I adore you. For never having dated, that's some pretty hardcore riz right there. That is pretty damn smooth. Let's be real. Slightly cheesy, but that hits so hard. Yeah, I agree. All of it. All right. Prince Jing's like, I don't have a boombox, so here's some posters. Very much. Holding up his sheets of paper. Here! Literally written on the walls. Chapter 53. Stealing Prince Jing. Liu was dumbfounded for a full 15 minutes. That big asshole writing such nonsense on all the walls in the manor made Liu so embarrassed that he wanted to dive right back into his fish tank. Weird slogans from the modern world flooded his mind, along with the confession walls from school. That's right, they do have those. So I'm not actually 100% sure if it's online, like a community board sort of thing, or if it's legitimately a physical wall where people will write out, I like this person, signed, or either this, or I like you, blah, blah, blah. But it's a thing where you can literally post a confession. In schools, I think it's a thing. College. I've seen it in some other stories. I know, Weibo, Weibo, is the browser or communication thing. They WeChat or something. And sometimes it's posted on there in some stories. I'm not 100% sure, but this is literally a confession wall, because it is a confession wall in the bluntest of sources. Others might not know why these two sentences were put together, but Liu knew that it was because he'd accused Prince Jing of treating him like one of his lovers, and that this was his belated response. Prince Jing didn't have any other lovers, and he acted so out of line because he liked him. Adore. He chewed on this word for a while, and suddenly his heart ached a bit. If he and Prince Jing were ordinary people, he might have been a little touched right now. Whether or not he accepted the confession aside, most people liked being confessed to deep down. especially in such a brazen way broadcasted to the whole world. Liu didn't feel happy, though, and his mood grew heavier. He knew Prince Jing didn't have anyone else. He'd reacted as he had because he thought Prince Jing thought he was easy. Liu felt humiliated and hadn't wanted to face Prince Jing for a while. But Prince Jing was using this method to tell him that it wasn't disrespect, but love. It was a bit of an old-fashioned way of saying it, but the meaning was clear. Prince Jing had fallen for him, which was even worse than if he disrespected him. Liu knew that he was Prince Jing's pet fish, and the Li Gonzi Prince Jing loved was nothing more than a fish clumsily trying to complete missions. Such feelings came from scheming and planning. They weren't naturally formed. If things progressed like this, what would the next mission from the system be? According to the system's logic, it would require a relationship even deeper than what they had during the indulged quest. If he wanted to complete the mission, then he might have to do things that would encourage Prince Jing to sink further into this misunderstanding. Oh, hi, Esper Lady. How you doing tonight? And welcome. You missed a rather juicy and adorable scene. Well, two of them. So we had, we started off with Liu trying to ply Prince Jing with some wine. Prince Jing pretends to get drunk, and then he makes his move, kind of wraps him up in a blanket and starts kissing him. And Liu gets angry, and he's like, I'm not some other lover, and runs away. And basically goes on a hunger strike as a fish for a couple days. And so now we arrived at the part where he kind of has slight realization that the system is kind of looking more like a dating sim than a pet system. So he had that thought, and now he's kind of like, I'm just not going to do missions. The next one's not time sensitive. I'm just going to leave it. And then Prince Jing literally just painted across the walls all over his villa, "There are no other lovers. I adore you." So, yes, the system very much is shipping them. So, yes, of course. And so he's now kind of having a moment where he's like surprised, but he also doesn't know how to take it because he, one, thought Prince Jing thought he was easy, and he was like, you don't know me very well. Why are you trying to pull that shit with me? So he was a little angry there, but it was a bit old-fashioned way of saying it, but the meaning was clear. Prince Jing had fallen for him, which was even worse than if he disrespected him. Liu knew that he was Prince Jing's pet fish, and the Li Gonzi Prince Jing loved was nothing more than a fish clumsily trying to complete missions. Such feelings came from scheming and planning. They weren't naturally formed. If things progressed like this, what would the next mission from the system be? According to the system's logic, it would require a relationship even deeper than what they had during indulged quest. If he wanted to complete the mission, then he might have to do things that would encourage Prince Jing to sink further into this misunderstanding. Eventually, maybe he'd end up together with Prince Jing. A lot of transmigration novels ended that way. But he didn't want that. His feelings were valuable, and the way the system was pushing him was uncomfortable. He could let some things go, but he wouldn't budge when it came to romance. He didn't want his feelings to be manipulated or calculated. He always showed concern and worry for Prince Jing, perhaps because he'd been his pet for so long. But that was just the love of a pet towards his master, not the love experienced by two equals. There was no way he could accept Prince Jing's feelings and give him his heart in return. Prince Jing didn't know Li Gonzi was a fish, but Liu did. The fish didn't love Prince Jing, and neither did Li Gonzi. If he accepted the confession without loving Prince Jing, it would hurt everyone involved. Well, at least he knows that, because that's something sometimes people have to figure out after getting hurt. So you can't help who you like. While Liu was pondering all this, several servants came up to the white wall in front of him and gestured at the writing on it. Liu knew Prince Jing had written those words and that he was trying his hardest to explain things to him. Since he wasn't turning into a human, Prince Jing couldn't find him, and since Prince Jing couldn't speak, he could only write his words anywhere that Liu could see. No matter how childish his methods were, this still represented Prince Jing's feelings towards him, which was why Liu felt a bit sad after he realized that Prince Jing liked him. He'd known Prince Jing for a while now, and he'd seen many sides to him. He knew that Prince Jing was a good person, since he treated both fish and people well. In the original novel, Prince Jing was cruel to others, but affectionate to the one he loved. Liu was well aware of this, but he couldn't force himself to fall in love with Prince Jing. Liu thought that as long as he didn't give Prince Jing any hope, if he didn't respond or transform into a human, Prince Jing would gradually forget about him. And just like the words written on the wall, they shocked the whole manor at first, but they would eventually be erased by the servants. Right? The other walls are about to be done. Let's start carving this one next. His Highness told us to hurry up. Even if Li Gonzi doesn't come back for now, he'll definitely see it when he finally does, come rain or shine. So the Prince Jing is not only writing all this on the wall, his nice white walls in black ink, he is having it carved physically into all the walls on his manor. Now, if that's not dedication, I don't know what is. That's a little past dedication into almost fanaticism, if we want to be honest about it. Like, I'm still loving it, but don't get me wrong, that is a little extreme. Like, the servants encouraged each other and soon began to carve Prince Jing's words directly into the wall. When the carving was finished, a special permanent ink was applied. So both carved and then reapplied. So it's... Oh yeah, no, I agree. It definitely shows how much he cares. But like, it's definitely next level as well. The ultimate simp move. Very much so. I mean, for Hua Chang, he literally tattooed Shai Lian's name on his arm. I mean, very poorly, but like, it is definitely a mega simp move. I mean, and then you have Lam Wanji, who branded himself to match Wei Wuxian. Like, it's not the name, but you know he would have totally put Wei Wuxian's name on himself, given the chance. Like, let's be real. Liu, who'd assumed the servants had come to erase the words, was shocked. Didn't this bastard know the meaning of shame? It was one thing for everyone in the manor to see it, but in the future, all his children and descendants... Yeah, this is why Don May sets the bar for romance way too high. And he took the whips for him. That too. Definitely that too. Thinking of Prince Jing's future, Liu felt a lump in his throat and his eyes started to sting again. Liu jumped down from the windowsill, telling himself it was because the servants were making too much noise working on the wall, and scooted back into the fish tank. He wanted to sleep again, but couldn't. Normally, he'd sleep even when he was extremely angry, but the few words carved into the wall seemed to be carved into his heart too, emanating waves of pain and sadness. He wanted to rest, but he was restless. The room was silent until there was a sudden soft click. The door bolt fell to the ground, the sound piercing the room. Since Li Gonzi came in and out of the room often, Prince Jing didn't let anyone lock the doors, so all the bolts hung loose. Maybe the person who pushed the door hadn't expected to enter so easily? A figure quickly dashed in. The footsteps didn't sound like Prince Jing or Wang Shi. Liu became alert immediately. The person who entered the room stood at the door observing, with his back to the crystal fish tank. Liu immediately forgot about his conflict and stared at the person. After confirming he hadn't been followed, the person gave a sigh of relief, turned around, and walked forward a few steps. Liu caught a glimpse of the person's beautiful, ethereal face. This person? Wasn't it the delicate concubine from the original novel, Chu Yanyu? He was stunned. Ever since the banquet at Prince Jing's manor, he hadn't seen Chu Yanyu again. He thought that Chu Yanyu was with the third or sixth prince, but he was still at the manor? How come he hadn't known? Yeah, no, we know. Oh man, Chu Yanyu doesn't learn. No, he does not. He's got his pride. And he is in love with the sixth prince, I think it's the sixth prince, and being used by the third prince. So, he's got some ambition there too. Chu Yanyu was wearing the same clothes the servants at the manor wore. It was a bit plain, but it wasn't enough to hide his aura. Liu didn't think that someone as weak as Chu Yanyu would be able to enter the manor from the outside, which meant that he must have been in the manor the entire time. Prince Jing was in charge of everything in the manor, so there was no way Chu Yanyu's existence could be hidden from him. That meant Prince Jing let him stay, just like he kept Liu. Uh-oh, misunderstanding time incoming. But when the third prince had presented Chu Yanyu to him at the banquet, Prince Jing had clearly refused. Did he change his mind? He'd said there are no other lovers. And Liu thought this bitterly. There might be no lovers, but he had a delicate concubine all along and didn't tell him. That was too much. Since he had someone, why didn't he tell me, and why did he confess? He hated it when people kept their eggs in multiple baskets. Liu drew a big X over Prince Jing in his heart. Oh, now he's getting jealous. Chu Yanyu walked to the crystal fish tank and looked curiously at the fish swimming back and forth inside. Everyone in the manor talked about how Prince Jing was raising a koi. Chu Yanyu had seen Prince Jing's fish from a distance before, but he wasn't able to get close. He only remembered that the fish was black. But now he could see that the fish had a silver body with gold on its belly and tail. With that appearance, it could only be a koi. It wasn't unreasonable for Prince Jing to dote on that kind of fish the way he did. That's what made it very special when he was just an ordinary soup carp, and he loved him anyway. Would you love me if I was a worm? Would you love me if I was a fish? And Prince Jing passed that test. Chu Yanyu observed the fish for a while, then he picked up one of the jade boxes on the table and opened it. He found red dry food in it, and when he checked, the other one had snacks that were broken into small pieces. Xue Yanyu closed the box with the snacks, picked up the dry food, and smelled it. He guessed that it was fish food and frowned slightly as if he didn't like the smell of it. But he still picked up a handful and walked back to the fish tank. Liu thought Xue Yanyu was bored and wanted to feed him, but Xue Yanyu lowered his head and whispered, "Be good. This is a rare opportunity I managed to get." Huh? Was Xue Yanyu talking to him because he knew he could understand? Liu was a little shocked. Was that possible? But he quickly realized that Xue Yanyu couldn't have known that he was a transmigrated fish. He just thought that he was alone and was talking to himself. But he could hear everything. So awkward. Liu pretended not to understand and stupidly blew a bubble. Xue Yanyu wasn't suspicious and continued. "I've been in the manor for so long, but I've only seen His Highness a few times. I'm incompetent. I heard that there was a Ligonzi who was doted on, and I can't figure it out." The doted on Ligonzi tried not to look too obviously confused. "What don't you understand?" Xue Yanyu paused and looked down, chuckling. "Don't understand how he's better than me. I've seen him from afar, and I'm quite confident I'm fairer than him. What does His Highness like about him but treats me like air? But I finally understand." Xue Yanyu prattled on excitedly, almost as if he was in a daze. "The biggest difference between Li Gonzi and me is that he's the one who helps His Highness take care of his fish. He managed to get close to His Highness because of the fish, so if I took over that job instead, I'd easily be on his level. Oh, you delusional little twink." Oh, I mean, it doesn't hurt, but personality is also very important. And you, my sir? Nope. Yep. And now the opportunity has come. Xue Yanyu gently smiled, saying, "Li Gonzi is arrogant because of the favor shown to him, and he left without saying goodbye. He's playing hard to get and hoping His Highness will fall more in love with him. But he's not the only one in the manor who knows how to raise and feed fish. I can as well. I can completely replace him, and I'll even do a better job." I don't think Xue Yanyu realizes Prince Jing can see his intentions from a mile away. Nope. I mean, both Esper Lady and you are like, yep, he's so delusional and very full of himself just from these comments. He's used to being the smartest and prettiest in the room. And when he isn't, maybe he might be smarter, but like he's used to being adored and he's not getting that now. And he does not like it. Xue Yanyu threw the fish food in front of Liu, his slightly smiling face distorting for a second and his eyes becoming cold. Yes. The scales on Liu's body were about to stand on end. He thought Xue Yanyu had lost his mind and was acting weird. From what he said, it seemed he wasn't doing well in the manor and was ignored by His Highness. Since he was never summoned, he wanted to steal Li Gonzi's job. Humph. Stealing? He's acting like I have something special with that bastard. He wants to get my affection and then set his sights on Prince Jing. The fish food Xue Yanyu threw in followed the current and landed in front of Liu. His ice-cold eyes were fixed on the fish. Liu couldn't help but shrink back a little. People had many sides. How come the proud, noble, delicate concubine from the novel turned out to be such a bad person on the inside? Liu thought Xue Yanyu was dangerous, so he obviously refused to eat the food he was given. The fish food sank down near his mouth, but he didn't go to pick it up. Chu Yanyu looked vicious for a second. He was having a hard time in Xingxi Garden these days. Shortly after he'd come to the manor, he was beaten within an inch of his life. There was no doctor to treat him, and everyone else in Xingxi Garden was too busy with themselves and didn't care whether he lived or died. Chu Yanyu secretly sent a letter to the Sixth Prince. The first few times had failed, but at last there was a response. The Sixth Prince wanted him to stay with Prince Jing and gain his trust. Chu Yanyu stroked the letter the Sixth Prince had sent him, feeling like his heart was being stabbed by a knife. His beloved Sixth Prince still put such faith in him, but he couldn't even see Prince Jing. How was he going to help the Sixth Prince in the future? Chu Yanyu mulled over this day and night as it possessed. After much thought, he decided that he would do anything, even if it meant he had to abandon all dignity. He had to earn Prince Jing's favor. You know, people who kind of start having that mindset are usually very dangerous because the level of morals that they will slip away from becomes lower and lower and lower the further and further into that mindset they get. And that's kind of where I will do anything for this person, even if it kills me. So, yeah. Chu Yanyu didn't have much money left, so he had to use the method he disliked the most. He flirted with a guard for a couple days and promised him a lot of benefits, which earned him the opportunities to sneak into the inner courtyard. He'd heard that Prince Jing's new favorite, Li Gonzi, was throwing a tantrum and had run away from the manor, so he made up his mind and decided to use this opportunity to win over Prince Jing. He suspected that Li Gonzi was favored because he was always around the fish, giving him an advantage. As long as he could take over care of the fish too, then Li Gonzi wouldn't be needed anymore. But even though he was here already, the fish wasn't eating the food he gave him? Whatever. Chu Yanyu sneered coldly, then poured a packet of brown herbal powder into a tea bowl and started mixing it. You couldn't believe it. Delicate concubine, are you really intending to drug Prince Jing? That was a tea bowl used for the fish to travel around, not for Prince Jing to drink out of. Dun, 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 dun. Wouldn't it suck if that was where we ended tonight? It's not, but that'd be quite the cliffhanger. Chapter 54. Nothing to do with the fish. Liu stared at Chu Yanyu, bewildered. All the tea bowls were extremely large now, since he'd grown larger. Did Chu Yanyu not find that strange? Well, he couldn't exactly blame him. As a fish, Liu usually only jumped around inside the room and rarely did so outside. But Prince Jing kept ordering new bowls to be prepared, which created misunderstandings. Chu Yanyu assumed Prince Jing was used to using tea bowls that were several times larger than normal. That's kind of a comical thought to think of. So, like, the normal tea bowl is like this size. So then, like, imagine it'd be like this size for the small palm-sized fish. So, like, this size. And then, like, this size for the second transformation. And now, like, that he's a big fish, it's probably, like, this size? So it's like, he thinking that they're, like, drinking out of, like... That's hilarious. Or maybe I'm making it too big, and it's, like, maybe this big. But that's still ridiculous to think. That's, like, the size That's like a platter. That's kind of funny image, just all of those on the floor. Oh boy. The brown herbal powder dissolved immediately into the water, leaving no trace. Liu was frightened since he didn't know what medicine Chu Yanyu had just dissolved. It shouldn't be arsenic. Chu Yanyu had touched it with his bare hand, so Liu knew that. It couldn't be anything so dangerous as that, but even if it was, he'd put the medicine in the wrong water, so it should be fine. Liu tried very hard to reassure himself, but then Chu Yanyu got up and realized that there were more tea bowls in similar styles all around the room. Oh well, he'd put all this effort into breaking in, so he couldn't leave any room for error. He'd just have to put the medicine in every bowl. Liu watched him drugging everything and thought, "How much medicine did you bring, delicate concubine?" Fair point. There was a huge red lotus tea bowl on Prince Jing's desk, the size of a large regular bowl. Okay, so like this big. Still ridiculous, but like less so than like a platter. Okay. Chu Yanyu didn't miss this one either, nor the smaller, colored glaze cup next to the tea bowl. Liu didn't dare make a sound. The delicate concubine didn't know it, but the colored glazed cup was the only one Prince Jing actually used. Somehow, he'd still managed to get it right. Chu Yanyu finished pouring medicine into the cup and looked at the final packet of medicine in his hand uncertainly. There were some noises outside the door, signaling that someone was coming. Chu Yanyu stopped hesitating and quickly downed the last packet of medicine himself. Liu was now sure that Chu Yanyu wasn't using poison. If it was poison, he wouldn't have taken it himself. Then what kind of medicine was it that Chu Yanyu needed to take it to? Liu was flustered. In a palace novel, if it wasn't poison, then it was an aphrodisiac, right? Oh, you harem dramas. Chu Yanyu coughed a couple of times, wiped away the powder on his lips, and smoothed out the wrinkles on his outfit before grabbing another handful of fish food, rushing over to stand in front of the fish tank, pretending to feed the fish. Prince Jing entered the room. Chu Yanyu pretended to be surprised, put down the fish food, and greeted Prince Jing. "Your Highness." Liu was in the fish tank behind him, watching the tall figure approach step by step. When he thought of how this guy shamelessly confessed his plot to him, Liu's heart beat faster for some reason. He backed up a little, sticking close to the ornamental mountain. Prince Jing didn't even look at Chu Yanyu, who was still kneeling. He went straight to the fish tank. "Ah! The bastard is really coming!" Liu instinctively wanted to dive into the cave, but then he remembered that Prince Jing didn't know that he was Li Guanzi. What was there to be afraid of? I can't hide. This has nothing to do with me. Oh, but the medicine Chu Yanyu just put into all the water? It had nothing to do with him, but should he somehow let Prince Jing know? But all Prince Jing cared about when he came in was seeing his fish. His deep, dark eyes seemed to penetrate his fish skin to reveal the human heart beneath. Liu felt chills from his gaze, and he felt a little guilty. He immediately ducked behind an aquatic plant near the ornamental mountain. "Your Highness?" Chu Yanyu felt a bit aggrieved since he'd been kneeling for a while. Why was Prince Jing bent on seeing his fish instead of him, even though he was kneeling before him? But at least now he knew for certain that he had no status compared to this fish. It also meant that he was right to put his effort forward towards the fish instead. Chuyanyu took a deep breath and smiled, saying, "Your Highness, I was passing by when I noticed the fish was hungry and hadn't been fed. I came in brazenly. Please forgive me, Your Highness." Chuyanyu thought that he was beaten last time because he failed to figure Prince Jing out. Perhaps Prince Jing didn't like it when others were too forward, so he'd apologize and admit his mistake first this time, while emphasizing that he did it for the fish. As long as he acted the way Prince Jing liked, Prince Jing would definitely notice him. Little notice me senpai here, just because... Actually, no. This is a little more like Fairly Odd Parents, like I wish I was the only boy in the world, like Trixie. Notice me! Tell me I'm pretty! Moment. Sure enough, when he mentioned the fish, Prince Jing glanced at him once again. But Chuyanyu knew that since Prince Jing didn't chase him out of the room, it meant he could stay. Yep. He felt like he was getting closer to Li Gonzi's position. Liu was uncomfortable with the fact that Prince Jing wasn't making Chuyanyu leave, because there was usually no outsiders when Prince Jing was in the room. Was he finally treating the delicate concubine differently? What an asshole! Liu thrashed his tail in irritation and accidentally snapped the aquatic plants he was hiding behind. Whoops. Prince Jing had great hearing. He heard the sound of the aquatic plants snapping, so he looked over. Liu immediately curled up on the tail that had caused the trouble. Fine. Do what you want. Important things must be said 3 times. He was just a fish, and Prince Jing could keep whatever he liked and whoever he liked. It was none of his business. Oh, got a little scum villain popping in here. Prince Jing looked at the fish for a bit, but seeing that the fish didn't swim over, he didn't reach his hand out either, so as not to annoy the fish. Instead, he walked to the table and sat down. Pout, pout, fish. Very much so. Chuyanyu guessed that the medicine he took was about to start working, so he softly said, "Your Highness, let me pour you a cup of tea." I don't know why I turned British for a second there. Liu couldn't help but swim to the front of the crystal tank. The delicate concubine was so proactive this time. Were sparks finally going to fly between the original couple of the novel? He should have been happy. If Prince Jing was with Chuyanyu, then he wouldn't think of him. But was he supposed to pretend not to know that Chuyanyu had drugged all the tea bowls in the room? Liu hesitated, unsure. On one hand, it would be helpful to him, but on the other hand, was Prince Jing the big asshole? He was a fish, not some saint. He was totally capable of caring only about himself and choosing things that only benefited him. Prince Jing and Chuyanyu were a couple in the original novel, and Liu wasn't the one who put the medicine in the water. At most, he was just a bystander. If his conscience couldn't take it, he could ask the system to reset him so that he wouldn't feel any guilt and he could be a happy fish. There was no need to feel so conflicted. Your Highness, I don't know which cup to use. Chuyanyu's sweet voice sounded again. This Chuyanyu was completely different from the arrogant, proud young man at the banquet. Liu's heart shook. Chuyanyu was asking in order to minimize Prince Jing's suspicion. He knew Chuyanyu was about to make a move. Prince Jing cocked his head as if he was about to reply. You bastard! Ignore him! Liu thought in a panic. But Prince Jing couldn't know what a fish was thinking, and his eyes landed on the glazed cup next to the lotus bowl. Chuyanyu understood and held the glazed cup with both hands directly in front of Prince Jing. Giving it some thought, he knelt down obediently. From where Prince Jing was sitting, his figure should be displayed to best effect from this angle. On your knees? Really? That's your best angle? My boy. Really? Chu Yenyu's face started to feel hot. He thought it must be the medicine. He'd never tried seducing anyone so boldly before, so it was normal to be worked up. It was different from flirting a little with the guards. He would soon conquer the man in front of him. Your Highness, please have some tea. Chu Yanyu calmed himself down and coaxed Prince Jing softly. Prince Jing took the cup, his slender fingers caressing the edges. Liu knew his habits, and that he might drink it in the next second. Why was Prince Jing so unguarded today? What happened to testing all of the prince's food and drinks with a silver needle? Okay, well, an aphrodisiac might not show up on a silver needle, but where was the servant who was supposed to try the prince's food? Also, isn't the tea cold? Just saying. Prince Jing was about to lift the cup. Liu had no time to think. At such a crucial moment, he felt like he had to do something. No matter who Prince Jing liked or who he ended up with, there was no way Liu would allow them to drug him. If Chu Yanyu could make Prince Jing sincerely like him, then Liu wouldn't stop them. But using drugs? What was the difference between that and using force? He wouldn't accept either. Chu Yanyu had already put medicine in every tea bowl for the fish. He couldn't jump over using the tea bowls to knock the cup out of Prince Jing's hands. If a person touched an aphrodisiac, they'd be hot with desire, but if a fish touched it, he might turn into boiled fish. That's kind of funny. Liu could only rely on himself now. He had to turn into a human and warn Prince Jing that way. He was still mad, but at such an important moment, he had to put his temper aside and prioritize other things. Liu quietly took out the fish pillow that he kept in his inventory, threw it into the crystal fish tank, positioned it, and chose an angle to jump out from that Chu Yanyu and Prince Jing weren't able to see. Prince Jing seemed interested in what Chu Yanyu was saying, but he was actually following the fish's movements out of the corner of his eye. He realized the fish had jumped out and landed with a clear slap, which caught Chu Yanyu's attention. With no other choice, before Chu Yanyu could turn around, Prince Jing gently flicked the rim of his cup with his nail. Chu Yanyu's attention was immediately diverted. Your Highness, is something wrong? Why wasn't he drinking the water with the medicine? Prince Jing smiled, picked up the cup, and calmly brought it to his lips. Chu Yanyu watched him expectantly. Prince Jing looked past him and saw the fish on the ground, standing on its tail and sliding in a fancy arc to end up behind the cabinet. Technically yeeting, so I will put down another yeet. So he did yeet himself out of the fishbowl to go walk and slide away. So I will put down another yeet. We need Mao Mao. All right, yeet number 4. Prince Jing had never realized that a carp spirit's tail could be used that way. Well, he's the only one that can, so don't plan on it. He was distracted for a second and sneakily glanced at the fish tank again, worried that Chu Yanyu would realize that the fish was gone from the fish tank. But just as he was working out how to grab Chu Yanyu's full attention, he saw a silver fish in the huge crystal fish tank, facing head down on the stone bed, strange and motionless. Prince Jing had seen another fake fish that looked exactly the same as the carp spirit before. He was sure this one was fake too, because the real carp spirit had just jumped out of the tank. That's a pretty good indicator that it's not the real one, yes. Perhaps it was a cloning skill. Prince Jing, who knew a little about cultivation, rubbed his eyebrows. With the fake fish, there was no need to worry about Chu Yanyu finding out. He picked up the cup again and tried to predict how long it would take Xiao Yu to turn into a human. Xiao Yu was faster than he thought. He jumped out quickly, shouting, "Your Highness! You can't drink that!" He was finally here. Prince Jing pursed his lips and put the cup aside fully. Chu Yanyu was shocked by the sudden appearance of this young man, his fingernails digging into his palm. The young man who had disrupted his plans was dressed in green robes with bright eyes and white teeth. The slim young man was Li Gonzi, who had supposedly run away from the manor. That rhymes. The young man who disrupted his plans. How dare. And we have a picture. I love how Chu Yanyu is in the back like, what the fuck? That definitely is a face of like, what the hell am I looking at? He does. He does look so mad. He's like, you can't drink it. He does look intense. Chu Yanyu frowned, feeling irritated. Li Gonzi had left already, so why did he come back? Was he not happy that his position was being threatened and was now trying to take him back? Or did Li Gonzi find out that he had put medicine in the cup? That was impossible. Chu Yanyu knew he was the only one in the room when he did the deed. What do you mean? Why can't he drink it? Chu Yanyu asked indignantly. The medicine had been used already. If he hesitated for a moment, Prince Jing would suspect him. Li Yu didn't have time to deal with him. He stepped forward and grabbed Prince Jing's sleeve, loudly saying, "Your Highness, you can't drink this. It's been drugged." Chu Yanyu looked at Li Yu in surprise. No sooner than Li Yu had finished speaking, Wang Shi came in with a group of guards. Li Yu was stunned, and Prince Jing took his hand immediately. Prince Jing nodded to Wang Shi, who ordered the guards to grab Chu Yanyu. Chu Yanyu, still hopeful, struggled and said, "Your Highness, I didn't. You can't just listen to Li Gonzi's side of the story." He was trying to stay calm, but he realized something was wrong when Wang Shi took away all the tea bowls in the room. How did Wang Gonggong know that he had tampered with all the tea bowls? And the medicine he'd taken before just now? Chu Yanyu looked down at his uncontrollably trembling legs. That was what finally made him sink into desperation. What was waiting for him? In any case, it definitely wasn't what he wanted, which was Prince Jing's trust and favor. Yeah, now you lost that. Like, if you even had like a shred of that, it is gone. But I don't think you ever had a chance. So, tough luck. Wang Shi took the wicked Chu Yanyu away like a gust of wind. Prince Jing and Li Yu were the only ones left in the room. Wang Gonggong understood that there was a lot that Prince Jing wanted to tell Li Gonzi, so he even closed the doors thoughtfully on his way out. While Li Gonzi was upset, Wang Shi and His Highness were both struggling, so Wang Shi hoped that Li Gonzi would have a change of heart. With the door closed, the room returned to silence. Li Yu looked at Prince Jing coldly. Prince Jing was happy beyond words and immediately wanted to hug him. Li Yu knocked away Prince Jing's outstretched hands and said icily, "Did your Highness know that Chu Yanyu was going to drug you?" A few things were strange about everything that had just happened. He was distracted at the time because of how worried he was, but he should have figured it out early on. Prince Jing hesitated and nodded. Since the last incident with Chu Yanyu, he'd been high on Prince Jing's alert list. Prince Jing knew what was happening as soon as the trouble started. Otherwise, how could Xue Yanyu have so easily made it into the inner courtyard? The medicine that Xue Yanyu had worked his hardest to get had been replaced long ago by soybean powder. Prince Jing had also confirmed that Xue Yanyu had no sharp objects on him and couldn't harm the fish. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let Xue Yanyu enter the room. He didn't care who was behind the delicate concubine's plans. He just wanted to use Xue Yanyu to lure Xiao Yu out. In the words of the ancients, 1 day apart seemed like 3 years. Prince Jing hadn't believed it before, but now he knew what it felt like. Xiao Yu had avoided him for the past couple of days, and a darkness had started brewing in Prince Jing's heart. He could do all kinds of crazy things for him. Using a human pawn was nothing. I kind of love that. Like, it's manipulative as all hell, but like, it's got that edge of crazy sweet where I'm just like, damn. He wrote everything he wanted to say to Xiao Yu on the wall, but still he didn't appear. He was afraid that Xiao Yu would avoid him forever, so he felt he had no choice but to resort to this. It is definitely giving a little bit of Yan Wuxi, and not gonna lie, he's an asshole, but I do love that asshole. So, like, yeah. Yeah. He was afraid that Xiao Yu would avoid him forever, so he felt that he had no choice but to resort to this. Xue Yanyu had schemed against him in front of Xiao Yu. Prince Jing had bet that Xiao Yu still cared about him and would show up to save him. And when he did, he could tell his fish how he felt in person. The plan was risky, but he trusted Xiao Yu with his life. Fortunately, he was right, and he finally got to see Xiao Yu's human form again. Prince Jing was so elated that most of his anger disappeared. But once Xiao Yu confirmed that Prince Jing had known about the plan from the get-go, his expression kept changing. Prince Jing could tell that Xiao Yu was upset again. Honestly, you struggled with 1,000 Autumns because I kept wanting to give Yan Wuxi a slap. I mean, he definitely deserves a slap or two, if not more. But, like, I kind of love the feral, unapologetic, I like you, you're mine aspect. Yes, it is a very valid reaction to Yan Wuxi. Like, I am not arguing that he's not an asshole. He is such an asshole. Okay. And Prince Jing is definitely a lot nicer, yes. Oh no, he definitely deserves a slap. Like, a slap, a punch, and a kick in the nuts. Like, for all the shit he pulls. At the least. Like, Prince Jing could tell that Xiao Yu was upset again. The youth in front of him lowered his head, wiped his face, and muttered, "You lied to me again." Liu turned into a human for Prince Jing because he didn't want him to get hurt. But now that he knew it was all part of Prince Jing's plan, he guessed that it was probably to make him show up. Liu's heart hadn't recovered yet from being humiliated and deceived, and this time his anger reached its peak. "I hate it when people lie to me," he spat out coldly. He broke away from Prince Jing's arms, punched him in the chest, and ran out of the room without looking back. Which, I mean, it's a valid reaction if you found out that someone you cared about but couldn't admit it literally put themselves into danger just to get your attention. I'd be pretty pissed too. And lied to me about it. Lied about the situation to get me there. Ooh, I'd be pissed. Chapter 55. Sick Fish. Liu rushed out of the room. He knew that Prince Jing, as a prince from ancient times and a tyrant male protagonist, had his own way of dealing with things, but he couldn't stand the fact that he had been so full of passion while the other party was just acting on purpose just for him to see. He truly hated being lied to in these past few days. His rebellious heart was like dynamite that exploded at a touch. Wang Gong and a group of servants were waiting outside. Seeing him come out, he called out in surprise, "Li Gonzi!" Liu's lips twitched. He didn't know what to say to Wang Shi, so he decided to ignore him. He turned away and ran towards one of the gardens behind the fake mountain. Wang Gong ordered people to follow him, but Prince Jing came out after Liu and shook his head at Wang Shi, who understood at once that he wasn't to interfere. Prince Jing gave chase himself. Wang Shi was afraid that Li Gonzi would run away again later, though. Prince Jing had stopped him from chasing Li Gonzi, but it would be fine for him to surround the garden, right? The garden wasn't very large, and Prince Jing soon found Liu standing dazed in the middle of a pavilion. Prince Jing didn't know why the carp spirit was upset again. Yi Qinghuan wanted him to learn how to make someone happy, but it seemed like he just couldn't help making mistakes. He didn't understand, and it was so inconvenient that he couldn't express himself when he wanted to since he couldn't speak. That really does suck for him. Prince Jing held a note in his hand. He intended to hand it to Liu, but Liu assumed he was still trying to catch him and smiled desolately. To be fair, Ornamental Mountain, yeah. It's a crazy concept. Liu had a feeling that it would be hard for him to escape if he was caught, and he was still upset with Prince Jing besides. He didn't want to see him, much less talk about love. He'd thought he had to transform to save Prince Jing, but since Prince Jing was apparently perfectly fine without his help, now he just wanted to disappear as quickly as possible. He remembered that the large fish pond Prince Jing constructed connected all the bodies of water within the manor, and under the pavilion was a pool. If he just entered the water, he could swim away and shake off Prince Jing. It's like those big, almost human-sized chess sets that show up in some movies, right? It's like, who you have that much capital, or like you're just like, I want human chess. Yeah, that's what I want to spend my money on. Liu made his decision. Prince Jing had just stepped into the pavilion when Liu loudly said, "Stop chasing me!" Prince Jing hesitated for a moment, nodded, and even stepped back to show his sincerity. As he stepped back, Liu turned his back to Prince Jing, facing the pool under the pavilion, and leapt over the railing into the pool. I also agree that they do an excellent job of making both of their points of view very understandable. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. That's a great way of putting it, Mars Rover. Prior to transmigration, he didn't know how to swim, but after he turned into a fish, he found his human form could swim too, though there were few opportunities for him to do it. I feel bad for both of them now because Liu is right to be mad, but Prince Jing is just so socially inept, and they both seem like people that way. I agree with all of that. He wasn't planning on swimming around, though. He just wanted to hide in the water until he turned back into a fish. That was the consequence of his reckless transformation, and it was safer to hide as a human than wander around. But his sudden plunge into the cold pond as a human sent chills racing through his body. Liu shivered as he tried his best to adapt to the water. Prince Jing was completely taken aback. He had just started to wonder what Liu was up to when he jumped into the pool. His pupils contracted as he lunged after Liu, grasping at air. Looking down, he noticed a figure moving in the water and realized that Xiao Yu must have swam away. It could also be the different set of rules, yeah. Prince Jing knew that he couldn't compete with the carp spirit when it came to swimming. He could never match his speed in the water. However, all the pools in the manor were connected, so he could roughly guess where Xiao Yu was headed and rush to the next pool or pond to stop him. Prince Jing left the pavilion and ran straight to where Liu might show up. But he waited there for a while, and Xiao Yu never appeared. The carp spirit had escaped again. Wang Shi came over to ask him where Xiao Yu was. Prince Jing shook his head, his face ashen. Xiao Yu couldn't maintain his human form for long, and Prince Jing couldn't ask his servants to go into the water to find him. The fewer people that knew the identity of the carp spirit, the better. The pond he'd built was huge, but luckily it wasn't connected to the outside, only the pools and ponds within the manor. There were guards on the shore too, so Xiao Yu was at least safe in the water and couldn't leave the manor. Prince Jing ordered his people to constantly keep an eye on all the water in the manor. He then went back to his quarters and waited outside, where Xiao Yu often came out of the water to play with him, hoping that perhaps Xiao Yu would come out after swimming around for a while. Prince Jing waited for 2 hours, but Xiao Yu didn't show up. When Liu entered the water in human form, he couldn't breathe like he was a fish, so he couldn't swim very fast. Since he'd turned into a fish, he could recognize a lot of aquatic plants now. He found one with a hollow stem, broke it, and held it in his hand. If he was about to run out of air, he could poke it out of the water and sneak a breath. I think those are pond reeds. He guessed that Prince Jing would wait for him at the next pond, so he tricked him by hiding after he got there, tucked away in an unseen corner. Even after Prince Jing gave up and left, assuming Liu must not be there after all, Liu still didn't show his face. He stayed hidden until he turned into a fish again, and then he put his clothes into his inventory and started swimming around. Because of his current color, he'd be easy to spot if he got close to the water's surface, so he only swam in deeper waters. How deep does this pond actually, how deep is it where you can't see silver and gold through water? Because, that's got to be some deep water. One of my sister's mother-in-law had a koi pond, and, unless it was completely covered in algae, it hasn't been cleaned in a while, so it was a little more where's the koi for that one. But when she was keeping it clean, it was clear. So how deep is this pond? It's crazy. The bottom of the pool was the same. Prince Jing had built miniature cities for him, and Liu felt uncomfortable when he saw them now. He wanted to swish his tail and destroy everything. Out of sight, out of mind. With his current tail's strength, he might not be able to shatter them in a second, but he could ruin a good portion. But even though he raised his tail, he couldn't bring it down. It was Prince Jing's present to his fish, and he couldn't bring himself to take his anger out on it. Liu coldly harumphed and glanced indifferently at the underwater city. He couldn't strike anything with his tail, so he turned and swam towards the building at the end of the pool. This building was made to resemble the one Prince Jing lived in. The jade statue of Prince Jing and the fish-shaped stone Liu had placed inside were still there. In the past, when Liu came down to play, he would often pull off the moss growing on the statues, but but he wasn't in the mood for it right now. Liu swam over angrily and shoved Prince Jing's statue with his mouth. It tilted as if stumbling. He couldn't use his tail to destroy Prince Jing's statue either, since he wouldn't be able to play with it afterwards. He pushed the statue several times and it swayed and finally fell. Liu then pressed his whole body onto the statue as if he was sitting right on him. Prince Jing, you big bastard! Ugh! Liu had saved him out of the goodness of his heart, but he had been deceived. He rolled into an angry ball. The fish-shaped stone was lying off to the side, and Liu picked it up in his mouth and put it on the jade statue's back. That's funny. After messing around with it for a while, the fish got tired and fell asleep on the jade statue. His body felt lighter as he slept like that. He didn't know how much time had passed, but Liu suddenly woke to the sound of human voices. Why were there people at the bottom of the pool? Liu drowsily wanted to see who was there, but he couldn't bring himself to wake up, even after trying a couple of times. Since he'd been sleeping at the bottom of the pool the entire time, Prince Jing was getting anxious and didn't want to wait for him to come out on his own. So he decided to go into the water and take a look. Wang Shi had tried to persuade him that the pool was too big and it might be dangerous, but Prince Jing's gaze told him, "Move aside." Wang Shi realized that His Highness had made up his mind, so he backed off and asked Prince Jing to take a few servants who were good at swimming to go with him. Prince Jing shook his head, declining. He didn't know what Xiao Yu's condition was underwater, and he was afraid that Xiao Yu's identity would be revealed if there were other people around. It would be best if he went alone. Prince Jing was good at swimming too. He changed into clothes that were suitable for swimming and then entered the water. Well, that's fair because he can't just go in his shorts. Okay. The guards had been staring at the water for a long time, but they didn't see Xiao Yu. It was clear that Xiao Yu was still at the very bottom. Prince Jing started searching the bottom of the pool, but ran out of breath a couple of times and had to breathe before going back down again. He had searched almost everywhere when he came to the building at the end of the pool, and to his surprise, he saw his fish curled up there. Prince Jing's heart clenched. He touched the fish's head, but the fish didn't move. He lifted the fish up gently, but the fish remained unconscious. Something rolled out from under him. Prince Jing looked and saw that it was his jade statue. Prince Jing guessed that the carp spirit was meditating again, though it was preferable in this case since it prevented him from throwing a tantrum and leaving. Prince Jing thought for a moment, opened his robes to carefully tuck the fish inside, and swam towards the surface. Your Highness! Your Highness! What happened? Wang Shi rushed over and found the fish in Prince Jing's arms. Wang Gongong was bewildered. Wasn't the fish master in the crystal fish tank in the room? Wasn't His Highness looking for Li Gonzi? Why did he show up with the fish master? Prince Jing gave him a warning glance, forbidding him from speaking further. Wang Shi racked his brain. Did I get it wrong? Master Xiao Yu went into the pool to play, and His Highness was looking for Master Xiao Yu, not Li Gonzi? Prince Jing nodded without a hint of guilt. So that was what happened. Wang Shi immediately accepted it. He'd been wondering how Li Gonzi had managed to stay in the water this whole time and not come out, but it turned out that he'd misunderstood. His Highness was looking for Master Xiao Yu. Li Gonzi must have left long ago. Wang Shi followed Prince Jing into the room. Prince Jing moved the fish pillow in the crystal fish tank to the side and pulled the little carp on the silver stone bed instead. Only then did Wang Shi notice that the fish that had been sitting in the fish tank was fake. Wang Gonggong wiped the sweat off his forehead and felt a bit ashamed. His Highness must have made it to deceive Chu Yanyu and protect the fish master. Why didn't he think of it before? The fish master must have been put in the pool instead, which was why His Highness was looking for him. It all made sense now. He gives him way too much credit. Wang Shi wanted to help Prince Jing change, but Prince Jing stared at the fish anxiously and waved his hand. Wang Shi brought over a dry cloth instead, and Prince Jing absent-mindedly patted himself dry, watching, but the fish never woke up. In the past, when the fish meditated, he would return within half an hour, but Xiao Yu hadn't moved since he was brought back. Prince Jing realized something was off and ordered his servants, who were good with fish, to take a look at him. But the servants weren't able to tell him anything new. They assumed Xiao Yu was just fallen asleep again, the same as always. If it was the same, then why wouldn't he wake up? Prince Jing didn't believe them and ordered Wang Shi to summon Imperial Physician Xue. Imperial Physician Xue wasn't exactly an expert on fish diseases. He simply had a lot of koi at home. He couldn't find any issues either, no matter how intently Prince Jing stared at him. Prince Jing was extremely worried now. He was the only one who knew that this was a carp spirit that wasn't waking up. Did something go wrong with his cultivation? Prince Jing decided to take his fish to see Liao Kong. When Wang Shi heard of this, he anxiously advised, "Your Highness, please give it some more thought. Almost nobody knows about the relationship between you and Liao Kong, so if you take Master Xiao Yu to the Great Master privately, the Emperor might notice it. If Liao Kong was involved with any prince, the Emperor would no longer trust him, and the words of advice Liao Kong had offered in the past would come under suspicion as well." Prince Jing understood this, but saving the fish was more important. Liao Kong knew some medicine, and he knew Xiao Yu's identity. He might be the only one who could help. Even if it made the Emperor suspicious, he had to go. Xiao Yu had saved him when he was younger, so it was natural that he should risk his life for Xiao Yu too. But Wang Shi did have a point. Prince Jing wrote, "Help me deliver a note to the palace. My fish is sick, so I'm requesting to take him to see Liao Kong." Wang Shi's eyes lit up. There would be no need to worry if he had the Emperor's permission. That's a fair point. Wang Shi ordered someone to come and help Prince Jing prepare clothes for the palace. Prince Jing put Xiao Yu into the crystal bottle and began to write the note. It was already late into the night. If Prince Jing wanted to enter the palace, then they needed someone in the palace to deliver the message. Everyone was busy for a while. The chaos finally woke Liu up, or more accurately, Liu had become aware of it multiple times, but couldn't force himself to wake up, no matter what he did. This time, he used all of his strength to force his eyes open a crack, and found that he was in the crystal bottle. His body hurt, and he didn't know what was wrong with him. He couldn't even flick his tail. He thought that the system must know his situation, so he tried to call out to it. He didn't know if the system would respond since he'd talked back to it last time, but it was clear that he was in a bad state. The system immediately said, "Hello, user. You're sick." Liu realized that the pain and weakness he felt was from being sick. Was being sick as a fish similar to being sick as a human? "You caught a cold because your human form stayed in the water for too long," the system corrected him. What should he do then? If he was sick, would the system be responsible for curing him? The Malay pet system only oversees the missions, not treating illnesses, said the system solemnly. Oops. "You are in critical condition, user. If necessary, please turn into a human and ask for help." Liu finally felt the gravity of the situation. The fish scamming system never asked him to turn into a human on its own. Was he seriously ill? He kind of guessed that he was sick when he couldn't wake up and felt weak all over. Though, actually, there was another surprising part of the request. The system said he should turn into a human. Was it already the next day? Liu looked around. Prince Jing needed to change clothes to enter the palace, and Wang Gonggong was busy following him around. There wasn't anyone in the room, and the crystal bottle wasn't kept. This was an opportunity. Liu braced himself, then swam to the mouth of the bottle and tumbled out of it with great difficulty. This was already more painful than he wanted. He weakly pressed on his scale to transform. As soon as he turned into a human, he felt much worse than he did when he was a fish. His whole body trembled, and his teeth kept chattering. His fish form seemed to be able to offset some of his discomfort, but it couldn't cure him, which meant he was in pain again when he took human form. But it was the only way he could be given medicine. Liu used his last bit of strength to take out clothes from his inventory and sloppily put them on. He wanted to ask for help, but from who? Meanwhile, Prince Jing had quickly changed his clothes and finished writing the note. He planned on heading back to Huguo Temple as soon as the Emperor gave permission, even though it was late at night. He pushed the door open to get the crystal bottle when he saw someone on the floor completely drenched. It was Xiao Yu. Recognizing Liu, Prince Jing quickly stepped forward to embrace him. When he unintentionally brushed against Liu's bare arm, he found that he was burning up. Liu lay in Prince Jing's arms. He was angry with Prince Jing and didn't want to see him, but when he was trying to wake up, he'd heard Wang Gonggong attempting to persuade Prince Jing several times. The servants and imperial physicians all said the fish was fine, but Prince Jing insisted that he wasn't feeling well and wanted to take him to see Liao Kong. He knew everything, including the fact that Prince Jing came into the water to look for him and took him out in his robes. He could hear the strong heartbeat from the chest he was leaning on. Even though he couldn't wake up, the heartbeat stayed with him in his dreams and made him feel at ease. Your Highness, I feel terrible, Liu sobbed hoarsely. All of his grievances from the past few days, the pain made him want to forget about everything. When Prince Jing heard this, he picked Liu up tenderly and kicked the door open. He knew Xiao Yu had a fever and wanted to call for someone, but he couldn't make any noise beyond a couple of coughs. Prince Jing was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. Your Highness! Wang Shi finally heard him and rushed over. Now that Xiao Yu was a human, the imperial physician could cure him. Prince Jing had Wang Shi clear the way, and he personally carried Xiao Yu to see the imperial physician. All right. We have 2 more chapters. I'm going to try to do them, but I'm fading a little bit. I think we can do it. Okay. Chapter 56. Fishy Reconciliation. Liu had a fever, but he didn't fall asleep again. He just felt weak. Prince Jing carried him all the way to the imperial physicians, unwilling to wait for him in his room. Liu, though touched, was also shocked to find out that he, a man, could be carried around so easy. Sob, wasn't this the Princess Carrie that he hated the most when he used to read novels? But he'd already gotten on this ride, and he was too weak to complain. I think I can do it. I'm just starting to get a little tired. It was a long day. They're not super long, but if it gets too much, I'll stop. Promise. Thank you. Wang Gonggong was staring at him with a burning gaze, along with many servants and guards. Thank you. All of you are so sweet. Liu numbly gave it some thought and couldn't think of a solution, so he just turned his head to hide. He wasn't used to it, but he also wasn't against such an embrace. He slowly put his weight on the person who was holding him and let out a long sigh of relief, leaning into them until he wasn't nervous anymore. He wondered if he'd found someone he could rely on. The symptoms of his fever were still uncomfortable, but they no longer felt so unbearable. Earlier, he was afraid that he might even die, but now he was even managing to keep track of other people's reactions. Liu was feeling much more optimistic about his illness being cured. Imperial Physician Xue hadn't left yet when an anxious Prince Jing suddenly rushed over with a young man in his arms. Imperial Physician Xue felt bad that he couldn't help Prince Jing with his fish, but now that there was someone he could actually cure, he felt better. He helped Prince Jing put the young man down, took out the medicine kit he carried with him, and checked the patient's pulse. Then he examined the young man's pale face again, thinking that he'd have a better understanding of the situation if he could see his throat. But the patient was unconscious, so it was a little inconvenient. Just as Imperial Physician Xue was about to ask Prince Jing to open the young man's mouth, the young man, who had been fully asleep just a moment ago, opened his dark eyes. Imperial Physician, I accidentally stayed in the water for too long, Liu quietly said, his voice rough. He already knew the cause of his illness, and he was afraid that he might actually fall asleep and delay the diagnosis, so he woke up to quickly tell the Imperial Physician. Imperial Physician Xue had never seen such a proactive patient before. He couldn't help but smile as he said, This Gonzi is suffering from a cold, yes. The high fever hasn't subsided, but his energy levels are fine. It seems the illness is severe, but there is no danger to his life. He needs to be carefully taken care of. Much more confident now, Imperial Physician Xue wrote a prescription. Prince Jing ordered Wang Shi to make it at once. The servants had finished cleaning up his room already, so Prince Jing stubbornly carried Liu all the way back. Liu was getting carried around so much that his anger had deflated completely. Prince Jing put Liu down on the bed and was about to change Liu's clothes, but Liu opened his eyes and shook his head fiercely until he'd made himself dizzy. Helpless in the face of his protest, Prince Jing didn't want him to feel uncomfortable, so he didn't insist on changing his clothes. Imperial Physician Xue had told him that Liu had to stay warm for the next few days, though, so Prince Jing turned around and found a gold-embroidered green quilt to wrap tightly around Liu. Liu was wrapped up like a spring roll. He was still muttering internally to himself of, how did Prince Jing know I liked green blankets? But the fever had turned his brain to mush, so even if he thought it was suspicious, he couldn't figure out why. 'Cause you told him, my friend. Wang Shi scurried into the room with the medicine ready, but before he could put the medicine bowl down, Prince Jing snatched it out of his hands. Wang Shi's eye twitched, and he handed Prince Jing a silver spoon. Prince Jing glanced at Wang Shi, and Wang Gong immediately understood. Your Highness, I'll be waiting outside. Please take care of Li Gonzi. He's like, Go. Shoo. Prince Jing nodded, and Wang Shi walked away to guard the door. Liu's head was still dizzy from all the shaking, and he fell into a light sleep for a while until he felt something touching his face. With some difficulty, he forced himself awake and saw a tall man standing at the bed, holding a small jade bowl in his hand. His eyebrows were knitted in confusion, as if he didn't know what to do with the medicine. He'd completely lost the domineering aura he'd had when he snatched it away earlier. Liu wanted to laugh, but he held it back. Your Highness, is it time for medicine? He didn't know how much longer his transformation would last. Prince Jing nodded, a stiff expression on his face, and Liu made to sit up. Prince Jing paused, understanding what he was trying to do, and supported him before he was able to exert any of his own strength. Liu sighed and decided not to expend any energy fighting Prince Jing, letting him help him instead. Prince Jing took the soft cushion on the bed and placed it beneath Liu's lower back. Liu leaned on the cushion, whispering, "Thank you, Your Highness. Please give me the bowl. I can do it myself." He held out his hand for the medicine. Prince Jing understood what Liu wanted, but how could he drink the medicine by himself when he was sick? Prince Jing had been sick when he was younger too, and in his memories, Wang Shi had always fed him medicine by the spoonful. Prince Jing knew that he ought to feed Xiao Yu now, but Xiao Yu seemed to be resisting him. If he handed the bowl over, the medicine was fresh out of the pot and still hot. It would definitely be inconvenient for the sick Xiao Yu. He just wants to feed him his medicine. He doesn't need a reason. He just wants to take care of him. Just accept it, dude. Prince Jing shook his head, rejecting Liu's request. He scooped up some medicine himself with a silver spoon and blew on it gently. He was afraid Liu was still angry, so instead of sitting down on the side of the bed, he bent down to bring it to Liu's lips. Liu had finally come to understand how stubborn this man was when he wouldn't put him down earlier, and he was actually afraid that if he didn't drink the medicine, Prince Jing would stand over him, waist bent, until he did. "I'll just drink it." Liu lowered his gaze and took the medicine, his face instantly scrunching up from the bitterness. When he saw this, Prince Jing put down the medicine and took out a peach blossom pastry from the jade box. He broke it into pieces, placed it on his palm, and handed it to Liu, gesturing with his chin. He wanted him to drink some medicine, then eat something sweet, right? What the heck? Whatever. But isn't that how I took care of him? How do you remember to do this? At first, Liu glared at Prince Jing and refused to eat it, but the medicine was too bitter. I hate bitter medicine. After a few more sips, Liu had to admit defeat and resignedly took a few pieces of peach blossom cake from Prince Jing to stuff into his mouth. Prince Jing made no moves other than to keep giving him medicine and reminding him to eat the pastry. At last, Liu finished the bitter medicine and Prince Jing took out a plain handkerchief. Before Prince Jing could get any closer, Liu took it and wiped his mouth ferociously with it. Prince Jing stayed silent and handed him another note. Liu was worried he'd see a door, and he was tired. Prince Jing did treat him well. When he was carrying him around looking for a physician, Liu was a little touched. When he suddenly fell ill, Prince Jing saved him in spite of the way he'd been sulking. He kept being cold to Prince Jing, but Prince Jing took good care of him and didn't seem to be affected by his temper at all. Liu was a little curious how far Prince Jing was willing to go for him. When he found out that Prince Jing liked him, he'd felt shocked and panicked, as well as angry at the system. Those intense emotions had made him feel lost for a while. He'd been angry for too long. He kept throwing tantrums, making trouble, even got himself severely sick. Now, as he was lying weakly on the bed, he finally calmed down enough to think and realized that he'd gone way too far overboard. Prince Jing had fallen in love with him while he was completing his missions. Could he blame Prince Jing for that? He couldn't. If he really thought about it, Prince Jing was affected by the system too. Wasn't he innocent? He kept resisting and resisting, saying that he hated this huge bastard, but when he really asked himself, how much did he really hate him? When Prince Jing used Chu Yanyu to force him to come out, was he angry that Prince Jing tricked him? No. If he was more clear-headed, he would have realized that everyone in the palace schemed and tricked others. Prince Jing had always been such a person. He was more upset that his concern had been for nothing, not that Prince Jing had deceived him. And wasn't he the one Prince Jing was always protecting, the biggest liar? His identity was fake, the fish was fake, everything was fake. Hadn't he lied to Prince Jing just as much? He would invent stories at every turn for missions or anything else. And then after all that, he'd gotten upset and hypocritically criticized someone else just to vent his own dissatisfaction. When it all came down to was really just that he'd suffered too many blows in succession and couldn't control his emotions. He'd heard that people usually regretted the choices they made when emotions were high. He should calm down before he decided what to do about himself and Prince Jing. That is a fantastically down-to-earth examination of emotions and a very clear-headed way of looking at things. Like, he is very upfront about what he is feeling, and I think that is amazingly healthy. Like, that is goals right there. Very fantastic. Love it. He's a very introspective fish. That is true. He definitely can occasionally be smart. You put all points into emotional intelligence. And being cute. Yeah. Liu didn't open the note for a long time. Prince Jing seemed to understand him and patted the back of his hand as if encouraging him. Emotions aside, Liu realized Prince Jing always managed to make him feel at ease. And yeet power, yes. Literally, his tail strength has increased 4 times. He stopped hesitating and opened the note to read. Rest and recover well. Liu's eyes were warm again, and he nodded imperceptibly. Prince Jing tousled his hair, helped him lie down, and tucked him into the quilt. Your Highness, can you leave me alone for a bit? Liu asked. Prince Jing had expected this. He'd been looking for a physician so urgently earlier because he knew Xiao Yu's 2 hours were almost up and that he would need to transform back into a fish. When it came to Xiao Yu's identity, he'd already come to the conclusion that if Xiao Yu did want him to know, then he would pretend to not know. So Prince Jing responded to Xiao Yu's request by picking up the bowl and getting ready to leave the room. Liu, on the bed, bit his lip. He'd asked Prince Jing to leave because his time was almost up, but if he sent Prince Jing away like this, would he think that he was still mad? He wasn't, actually. His anger had dissipated when he saw how dedicated Prince Jing still was to him, even while he was upset. It was better to not be mad. It was just too tiring and troublesome to be mad. And it hurt both himself and others. Amen! His body was sick, but his emotions were cured. Your Highness, I feel a lot better after taking the medicine. Please don't worry. But I still have something important to do, so I can't stay in this room. I'll still come tomorrow, though, and I won't run away. So, can you come see me again tomorrow? Yes. Yes. Wait, I skipped ahead. Liu said it all in one breath, and his face turned a little red. He wanted to say sorry to Prince Jing for his behavior, and hoped Prince Jing wouldn't take it to heart, but why did he end up saying that he hoped Prince Jing would come see him? So why doesn't my mouth listen to me? It must be because I'm sick. Prince Jing paused, turning around in disbelief. Liu hid his head under the quilts and pretended he hadn't said anything. Prince Jing spotted some of his hair sticking out of the blankets, smiled happily, and closed the door for him. They really are so cute, yes. Liu counted Prince Jing's quick steps as he left and thought distantly that he really did still prefer getting along well with that big jerk. Yeah, I'll be okay to do one more chapter. That's where I plan to end it, and it kind of connects. So I'm going to finish it. Chapter 57, Feeding the Fish Medicine. Very wholesome. Liu took a brief nap. When it came time to transform back to a fish, the symptoms of his fever had improved quite a lot, and his head felt a lot clearer too. Back in his tank, Liu noticed that his fish plush was no longer lying on the silver rock bed. How had it fallen? Perhaps he had accidentally thrown it there when he was in a rush to transform. What a clumsy mistake. Prince Jing hadn't noticed that it was a fake fish, right? Well, it was fine, even if he did notice. He'd had a fish plush before, too. Prince Jing hadn't suspected anything then, and had even used it himself to fool the second prince. The real fish decided it wasn't a big deal and put the plush back into his inventory. He laid on the silver rock bed listlessly, taking note of when he would be able to transform again. Perhaps being sick had made him weak. Sleeping on a bed as a human felt a lot more comfortable than a rock bed. Besides, as a human, Prince Jing took care of him, but as a fish... Wait, didn't Prince Jing say he wanted to take the fish to see Liao Kong? Liu jumped up from the silver rock bed. Wait, Prince Jing had noticed that the fish was sick and wanted to treat the fish, but then Liu had turned into Li Gonzi and passed out in his room. So Prince Jing took Liu to see the imperial physician instead, but what about the fish? Also, the fish got sick because Li Gonzi had jumped into the water to escape. Prince Jing jumped into the water to find Li Gonzi, but ended up finding the unconscious fish, so he took him back. But what happened to Li Gonzi? Li Gonzi appeared in Prince Jing's room completely drenched. Liu went over it again and again in his mind. The more he thought about it, the more something felt off. There was way too many coincidences. Did Prince Jing know Li Gonzi was a fish? Liu came to the abrupt realization that his cover was so full of holes it was basically a sieve. He had to think of a plan quickly. If Prince Jing realized the person he'd taken a liking to, Li Gonzi, was actually a fish... A small voice in his head piped up. So what? Prince Jing would never accept that, so he'd stop pursuing you. Right? If he had actually, thought it through a little more. Liu said to himself very seriously, if Prince Jing really finds out, then I can no longer be his pet fish, and I won't be able to complete the Moe Pet System quests, which means I won't be able to turn back into a human. I'd just be a fish for eating without anyone to rely on. Even if I'm a real koi now, with no one to take care of me, I'd die quickly, right? He couldn't let Prince Jing find out his secret, and he couldn't thoughtlessly make a stupid fuss just because he didn't know what to do with Prince Jing's feelings. After all, he'd already caused a huge ruckus. Liu swished his tail miserably. Taking care of the aftermath of this ruckus was now a huge, fishy headache. As Liu was sunk in thought, someone knocked on the door. Hearing no response, Prince Jing pushed it open. He'd promised that he would wait until Li Gonzi left before returning. Liu immediately swam to the front of the crystal fish tank, well behaved. The current matter at hand was to make sure Prince Jing didn't notice any similarities between him and Li Gonzi. For example, Li Gonzi was sick, so the fish couldn't be sick. As long as the fish was lively and energetic, Prince Jing couldn't connect the sick Li Gonzi with the fish. But hang on. A few days ago, the fish was on strike, not letting Prince Jing pet him. What had he done? Well, he wasn't thinking clearly. In front of Prince Jing, Li Gonzi was Li Gonzi and the fish was the fish. He couldn't mix them up. If even he himself was getting the two mixed up, Prince Jing would be able to see it too. Liu hurriedly swished his tail at the prince as he swam in complicated patterns in the water. Prince Jing did care about his fish the most, after all. Every time he came into the room, he always made a beeline to the crystal fish tank. Noticing the fish wasn't so lethargic anymore, Prince Jing's expression improved a lot. But as he watched his fish swim around excitedly, he kept his hands to himself. It didn't make sense. Usually, when he showed such affection, Prince Jing would always pet him, or at least pat his head. But now, no matter how cute he acted, Prince Jing's hands remained at his sides. He seemed to be deep in thought and had no intention of touching the fish. Liu suddenly grew nervous. Prince Jing hadn't actually noticed anything. Had he? Liu's concern grew as Prince Jing stared at him with his brows furrowed. Then he reached into the water, put the fish carefully on the silver stone bed, and covered the fish with the leaf blanket. At the end, he patted the fish on the head. Prince Jing was thinking. The imperial physician said he can't be cold. The fish was once again wrapped up like a spring roll. Liu vaguely recalled that the blanket Prince Jing had wrapped around Li Gonzi was a grass green color edged in gold. And the way he'd touched Li Gonzi's head, had Prince Jing really found out? If he hadn't, why did he treat the fish and the human the same? He even knew that both the fish and Li Gonzi were fans of underwater plants. As soon as this possibility surfaced in Liu's mind, he felt like the water in his fish tank had suddenly frozen solid. At that moment, Wang Gonggong walked in briskly and clasped his hands together to greet Prince Jing. Your Highness, the carriage is prepared and everything is ready at the palace. Does your Highness still wish to enter the palace? Prince Jing shook his head. He'd wanted to go to the palace because no one was able to treat Xiao Yu, so he had to ask for the emperor's permission to seek out Liao Kong. Imperial physician Xu had already diagnosed Xiao Yu with a cold, and Xiao Yu had woken up and looked a lot better after drinking the medicine, so there was no need to rush to the palace in the night. Xiao Yu could recover quietly for a while, and he'd decide what to do after that. Of course, he still wanted to send a message to Liao Kong afterward. He would feel a lot better after consulting Liao Kong. Prince Jing's thoughts were a little complicated, so he wanted to write them down for Wang Shi. From the corner of his eye, he spotted the fish tumble off the silverstone bed, still wrapped up like a spring roll. He pressed his little fish face against the crystal, his eyes like dark grapes, staring at him pitifully. Prince Jing smiled. Xiao Yu was probably afraid of seeing Liao Kong. Yao were typically afraid of monks. Prince Jing's brush flew across the page. After he was done, his expression told Wang Shi to read it out loud. Wang Gonggong really truly didn't know what was going on, but read aloud under his master's orders. Xiao Yu's fine. There's no need to go to Liao Kong. Having eavesdropped successfully, Liu thought, oh ho! It was clearly the right choice to greet Prince Jing energetically. See, now he thinks the fish isn't sick. He's looking way too calm to have found out Li Gonzi's true identity. After all, if he had realized the truth, wouldn't he be asking Liao Kong to come and exorcise the Yao? Liu was sure he was still safe with a firm grip on his teetering cover. As for Prince Jing covering both Li Gonzi and the fish in a similar blanket, Liu glanced at the leaf blanket that he had draped over himself like a cape. Perhaps Prince Jing was affected by the fish's tastes and had also started to like green blankets. Sure, That was a bit more likely than Prince Jing working out Li Gonzi was his fish. To be fair, yes. Yes, it is. Really, when it came down to it, who would ever assume a human could turn into a fish? Liu stopped thinking about it. Prince Jing obviously didn't suspect him, and Liu was happy to rest and recover. The next day, he transformed right away, and Prince Jing had already ordered his medicine to be made and was waiting for him. Liu had thought taking care of a patient just meant feeding them good food and tucking them in. Apparently, getting sick caused fish to lose brain cells too. He forgot he still had to take his medicine after transforming. The medicine Imperial Physician Xue had prescribed him was way too bitter. Liu had clearly blocked out the taste due to how awful it was the first time. In the end, though, when he wasn't being stubborn, he was quite reasonable. I mean, yeah. Even though the medicine was disgusting, he knew it was good for his recovery. His fever had broken, and he was no longer feeling any discomfort, which meant the medicine was working. Prince Jing brought over the new bowl, and Liu accepted it readily and drank all of it at once. Prince Jing was holding a silver spoon, ready to feed Xiao Yu just like yesterday, but in the blink of an eye, Xiao Yu had already finished the bowl. Liu grimaced from the bitterness. When he put back down his bowl, he realized Prince Jing was still standing there silently. Completely oblivious, he asked, "Is there anything else you needed, Your Highness?" Prince Jing put away the spoon and shook his head slowly. He wanted to feed him. As Liu watched him, he suddenly realized that the prince probably wanted to feed him the medicine, but he'd already finished it. Liu's thought process was very simple. Drinking the medicine was such a painful experience that he might as well just rip off the band-aid. Dragging it out would only make it worse. Except he'd accidentally messed up Prince Jing's plan. He didn't mean to! Liu rushed to save the situation, saying, "Though I've already drunk all the medicine, it's still just as bitter." Prince Jing nodded. If it was bitter, then he should eat something sweet. He would feed him as many peach blossom pastries as he did yesterday. Prince Jing broke apart the pastry with his head down. This time, Liu had learned his lesson and didn't mention anything about eating it on his own. But Prince Jing kept standing there, beside him, bending over him. Every time Liu spoke, Prince Jing would look down at Liu gently. There was no way he could keep this up for a long time. "Your Highness, why don't you sit down?" Liu said considerately. Sorry. What Liu meant was Prince Jing should go find a chair to sit in. There were quite a few chairs in the room made of red sandalwood, so there was more than enough. But Prince Jing nodded and sat down on the edge of the bed with a whoosh of his robes. The way Prince Jing had kissed him forcefully was still fresh in Liu's mind. Having him so close all of a sudden made Liu uneasy. But would he be making too big a deal of it if he asked him to stand up? Liu didn't want to be mad at Prince Jing anymore, so he could only scoot inward a little to put some distance between him and Prince Jing. Luckily, Prince Jing didn't notice, or if he did, he didn't let it show. Liu quickly finished the peach blossom pastries and wiped his mouth. Prince Jing then brought over a white glazed lotus petal bowl. There was a dish flipped on top of it, covering what was inside. "What is this?" the curious fish baby asked. Prince Jing looked a little smug as he opened it for him. Liu realized it was a small dish of smashed cucumber. Delighted, he asked, "Did Auntie Xue make this?" He guessed it immediately. Smashed cucumbers didn't exist in ancient times. He'd only made it once in front of Auntie Xue, so she must have made this. The one he made had all gone into Prince Jing's stomach, and it seemed to taste all right. What did Auntie Shu's taste like? Prince Jing came a little closer and handed him a pair of chopsticks. Now I wonder if it's going to be good, so like better than his by far, or if it's going to be the same, and he'd be like, oh, she got the spices kind of wrong. And he'll just remain oblivious. Liu picked up the chopsticks and tasted a piece first. Then he ate faster and faster. As he ate, he gave a thumbs up, so it's going to be better. After eating so many sweets, he wanted something savory. Auntie Shu's smashed cucumber was surprisingly comparable to the ones he'd eaten in the modern world. You don't think it could be any worse? Don't tempt him. Prince Jing's lips twitched upward. Just like that, he'd managed to close the distance that Xiao Yu had tried so hard to put between them. Liu had drunk his medicine, then stuffed his stomach full of pastry and cucumber. Having eaten and drunk his fill, he felt a little sleepy. Prince Jing moved the jade pillow next to him, signaling that he should sleep a while. Liu wanted to, but was afraid that he'd turn into a fish in his sleep. He wondered how much Prince Jing was willing to do for him. Yeah, truly, like, it's super hard to fuck up cucumber salad. Like, especially with, like, soy sauce, vinegar, maybe a little bit of sesame oil. I'm not super fond of sesame oil, so I usually leave it out. But then, like, unless you destroyed it with chili, like, or put way too much vinegar, but even then, like, maybe too much soy sauce, so it's, like, so salty, it's, like, you cough, like you're drinking soy sauce. But I'm like, even if you, like, put too much garlic in it, like, it's pickled garlic, which is not bad. So, like, yeah, I'm right there with you, Truffle. Yeah, Xylian could set it on fire. Right? Well, I mean, like, a little's fine, but if it's, like, his salads are purple. And I don't think purple cabbage was native back then. So, that's impressive. Okay. If I only want to sleep for an hour, will your highness wake me up? He asked pitifully. Waking someone up was a servant's job. Would Prince Jing be willing to do that for him? He was a little curious. Now I want to make cucumber salad. If I make cucumber salad, I'll post a picture of it in the post tomorrow and be like, I did it. I think mine's probably better than Liu's. But Prince Jing looked at Liu and nodded easily. This was something he could do. It was much easier than ordering cucumbers from Auntie Shu. Seeing that he didn't even hesitate, Liu's heart pounded once again. Wang Shi had important news to report to Prince Jing, but Prince Jing had specifically warned him before that when he was taking care of Li Gonzi, he did not want to be disrupted. Wang Shi peeked in through the crack in the door and waited until Li Gonzi had fallen asleep to call out to Prince Jing quietly. Prince Jing walked out and stared at him with cold eyes, listening to what he had to say. Wang Shi immediately understood. He's at Xingqiu Garden, awaiting your highness's punishment. Prince Jing reached up to flick some dust off of his robes. He pulled something out of his sleeve and handed it to Wang Shi. Wang Shi took it, confirming that it was some sort of medicine. His heart went cold. His highness was much too harsh, but this man had brought this on himself. Inside the room, someone started sleep-talking. At the sound of Li Gonzi's voice, Prince Jing's ominous aura immediately dissipated as he hurried back to look after Li Gonzi. Now that he had his orders, Wang Shi immediately told the servants to do as Prince Jing instructed. When Xue Yanyu was dragged back to his quarters, he suffered another beating. Perhaps because this wasn't his first time, he didn't pass out, but he wished he had. He never expected that after all he had to do to sneak into Prince Jing's rooms to drug him, he'd ended up being discovered immediately. It wasn't even just that his plan had failed. In order to entice Prince Jing and in order to numb himself, he had drunk the aphrodisiac himself. He'd felt strange, and he'd assumed he was burning with desire. He'd cried and begged nonstop for the servants carrying out his punishment to take him to Prince Jing, hoping that Prince Jing would feel a little pity for his current state. The drug was meant to help him forget about shame and do what he had to do, but in the end, Wang Shi told him coldly that he hadn't even taken the drug. All of the aphrodisiac had been switched with bean powder. That was when Xue Yanyu realized that what he was feeling was only the product of his guilty conscience. Everyone knew, but nobody told him. They all just watched as he made a fool of himself, begging lewdly for affection. Xue Yanyu lay on the ground quietly, wishing he was dead. That'd be a pretty humiliating realization. Like, that would be a rough way to come down. Now, Wang Shi was here with a bunch of... he did try to drug somebody, so, I don't really have sympathy for him for that, but, sucks to be you. Before Xue Yanyu could react, a guard had grabbed his throat and forced him to drink a cup of tea. Xue Yanyu knew it couldn't be anything good. He put his fingers down his throat and coughed loudly, but even though he coughed until he cried, he still wasn't able to throw up the tea. Weaponizing the placebo effect, exactly. Xue Yanyu glared at Wang Shi, tears streaming down his face. What did you give me? Wang Shi's smile didn't reach his eyes. Chu Ganzi wanted to drink this, but wasn't able to. Have you forgotten already? Was this real aphrodisiac? Xue Yanyu was shocked and alarmed. He turned to run, thinking that if he could escape to the Sixth Prince, there would be someone to protect him, to save him. But he was in Prince Jing's manor, and he was injured. There was no way he'd be able to get very far. Wang Shi walked forward to throw him down to the ground himself, and tied up Xue Yanyu's hands and feet. Xue Yanyu felt the true effects of the drug very quickly. He was trembling all over, eyes bloodshot. Every single rational thought had been swallowed up until nothing was left. Who he was, who was the Sixth Prince, none of it mattered. He just wanted release, or else for someone to kill him. He thought Wang Shi had put him in this state so he could find someone to defile him, but nobody came. After Wang Shi tied him up, he gagged him and locked him in the room. Chu Ganzi wanted others to experience what it feels like to be consumed by desire. Wang Shi sneered. Why don't you try it out yourself? Good taste of what this feels like, Chu Ganzi. This is Prince Jing's punishment for you. Xue Yanyu couldn't move or shout. All he could do was whine pitifully. Wang Shi disappeared into the distance. All that awaited Xue Yanyu was suffering heat and endless darkness. And on that rather ominous note, we end our reading for tonight. So I wanted to get the sick Liu arc over, so I'm glad I pushed through. But yeah, we had some ups and downs. We had our couple's first argument, real argument, and they managed to weather through it, so power to them. Yeah, you're welcome, Omar's Rover. I have already posted the book recommendation, or the fanfic recommendations. So for this time, I've got an AU for Scum Villain. It's called Meet Cute These Dorks by Maven. This one is complete. It's a Lu Yuan, and it has a lot of world building. It's not really like based around the book. Like it's the world of the book, but it kind of just tells its own story. It's very cool, very good. The summary is: the instant he turned to dash into the fight, Lu Qingge froze as he saw not Shen Qingchu standing coolly over one unconscious thug, gooping in both hands and still in a pose that clearly showed he had, in fact, just bludgeoned someone with the end of his guqing. Not Shen Qingchu smirked and tilted his head back cockily. Lu Qingge finds Shen Yuan running away from a sticky situation and brings him back to Cheng Qiang in hopes that he can keep the man from getting himself mugged. Shen Yuan is just relieved he doesn't have to pretend to be a girl anymore. So that's the scum villain one. And then the recommendation for Modao Zushi is actually one of my favorites that I come back to often because it's a different premise and it's also complete. So it's called All Things Belong by Kuroi Atropos, and it's completed AU, and it's told primarily through one Rohan's point of view, and it's exploring the idea of what if Wei Wuxian was Wen Rohan's grandson, and he realized it before the whole war arc happened. And it is phenomenally well written and just all around super great story. And it's the official summary is: at a discussion conference, when Rohan sees a face that he thought lost to the impenetrability of Bao Shen Sanren's mountain, he will not lose something so precious again. Not when being a grandfather suits him so well, and his grandson is as wonderful as Wei Wuxian. So those are the two ones, and I highly recommend both of them. But other than that, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I hope that you get to do something fun. I get to go celebrate my brother's birthday this weekend, which will be nice. Good food, good company. But yeah, have a great weekend, everybody. And to all of you that are watching and who are watching later. Oh yeah, if you haven't already, I am very happy to announce that we are almost at 100 subscribers, and I will be doing a in-character cosplay once we reach 100. So go ahead and vote on that, and once we reach it, that's when I'll announce who won. Have a great weekend. Good night. Oh, gotta find the button. Good night.